One Piece, I can get rewards from watching short videos. Chapter 41. The Straw Hat Pirates have their own duties. Go to the town to buy the supplies you need. Only Straw Hat Luffy has nothing to do. He wandered all the way to the execution ground where Roger was executed. He jumped onto the execution platform in one step. He looked down at the whole square. It was as if I saw the last scene that Pirate King Roger saw before his death. A police officer tried to persuade Luffy to leave. But he was knocked unconscious by someone with an iron rod. The person who came was the female pirate, Alrita, who Luffy had just punched away when he first went out to sea. It is completely different from the original one with pockmarks on his face and a short and fat body. At this time, she had eaten the slippery fruit. So her appearance changed drastically. Not only did she become beautiful, but she was also able to control the friction of her body. At this moment, he has already formed a pirate alliance with Buggy the Clown. As soon as he appeared, he led the Joker pirates to control the entire square. And Buggy the Clown's subordinate, the juggler, instantly pressed the execution board on Luffy. He was put on the execution platform. The riot in the square also attracted the attention of the Admiralty Colonel Smokey. The girl who had been guiding Zoro and giving him very good advice also stood next to Smoker. Her real identity is the Navy Headquarters Sergeant, Dashiki. The two of them came to the square and tried to stop Alrita the Iron Rod and Buggy the Clown, who were causing trouble there. Buggy the Clown is trying to kill the annoying guy who defeated him, Straw Hat Luffy, in front of many people. But the sky was not kind, and dark clouds gradually covered the entire rogue town. Buggy the Clown didn't care about these details. Instead, he raised his butcher knife and wanted to chop off Luffy's head in front of everyone. When his life was hanging by a thread, Straw Hat Luffy said the same words as Pirate King Roger did back then. He announced in front of everyone in the square, "I am the man who wants to be the Pirate King." Luffy's most loyal crew members had no time to rescue him, because they were immediately stopped by the huge crowd of Joker Pirates crew. Buggy the Clown no longer gave him a chance to speak. He raised his butcher knife high and would not let Straw Hat Luffy have any chance to escape. When he was about to be beheaded, there was a sudden roar of thunder in the sky. Before dying, Straw Hat Luffy showed the most brilliant smile. "Sorry, I'm dying." Everyone present was shocked. When faced with the threat of death, Straw Hat Luffy actually laughed. What kind of courage and spirit is this? This is his qualification to become king in the future. Naruto sat in the Hokage's office and looked at the screen on his ceiling. He had no intention of handling official documents. So he pushed all his work to Shikamaru, and the more he looked at the boy on the screen, the more he felt close to him. He seemed to have returned to more than 10 years ago, when he was still the demon fox boy who was hated by the people in the village. He could only get the attention of the villagers by constantly making trouble. The third-generation Hokage, who was still alive at that time, took care of him like his grandfather. At that time, Naruto only used the art of seduction to make the third-generation Hokage grandfather bleed from his nose. At that time, he could not understand the good intentions of the third-generation Hokage, and his dream at that time was to become a Hokage admired by the villagers. Just like the boy named Luffy, they all have very ambitious goals and ideals. Luffy wants to become the Pirate King, and he has realized his dream at this moment. Naruto has become a Hokage. He has become a hero in the hearts of countless people in the village. The man on the screen is taking the most important step towards his dream, which is to go to the Grand Line. Only by truly circumnavigating the Grand Line can he be truly called the Pirate King. In other words, what they have watched during this period is only a part of the long journey. But Luffy's optimism about death and the free and easy lifestyle he longs for are all things Naruto has dreamed of before. "Come on Luffy, I have become the Hokage and I am waiting for you to become the Pirate King." Naruto showed him the highest respect. Hunter Plain. Although Zaija has become an ordinary rural boy in his hometown, he is always concerned about his companions in his heart, because they have made their own life choices at this moment. Kurapika boarded the cruise ship to the Dark Continent. In order to find the fiery red eyes of his people, he had to get close to the prince of the kingdom of Kaken and repeatedly deal with them in the War of Successors. His good friend Leorio has become one of the 12 branches of the Hunter Association, and even replaced his father's position. He constantly collects intelligence and supports those warriors going to the Dark Continent. His father joined the mercenary team to limit Pariston's conspiracy. At the same time, he also wanted to regain his son's ability to read, and he had to go to the Dark Continent again. So before that, Zyja had no time to be sad and complain, and could only keep honing his skills in the jungle. Luffy, who was already in a life crisis on the screen, was still able to keep smiling. Zyja didn't need to continue to complain about himself. He had avenged his master and friend, and also saw his father and him having a long talk at the top of the world tree. To be honest, his wish has been fulfilled, but his desire to help his friends is still restless. Although I can't use my telekinesis, I have a strong body and can help my friends. Zyja did push UPS with one finger. He challenged the limits of his body. The boy with a bright smile on the execution platform became a banner to guide Zyja to keep working hard. Heroic Plane. Saitama fell into deep thought in battle after battle. He saw the screen above his head and found that the boy had a very clear goal in life, while he was just a hero out of interest. No matter what enemy he faced, he could often resolve the battle with one punch. However, because he was too powerful, he also lost the motivation to practice continuously. He also visited famous teachers, but found that those people were not as strong as himself. He also fought against strong enemies, but those enemies could not cause him any trouble at all. So in this environment, he gradually lost his goal and his original intention to become a hero. So which way should I go next? Luffy. Chapter 42. The Plane of the God of Death. Byakuya Kukaki is known as the genius of the Kukaki family. After only a few years, Byakuya eliminated all the shortcomings of the Kukaki family. And those people in the family who harbored evil intentions were quickly dealt with by him with thundering means. He was originally arrogant, thinking that as the captain of the 13th team of the Godii, he should take the responsibility of protecting the Siraidii. It was a pity that the Invisible Empire and the Stern Cross appeared. It completely shattered his self-confidence. Even when he went to Hueco Mundo, he never felt powerless. Although his Senbonzakura did not suffer fatal damage, his Bankai was taken away after all. This still caused a certain blow to Byakuya Kukaki. At this moment, he was completely immersed in the hell hot spring of the Zero Squad, replacing all the blood in his body. Then he came to the location of Namiya Wanjiu, and his Senbonzakura actually didn't need to continue evolving, and he had reached the point of perfection in the use of Zanpakuto, so he came directly to Senjimura's territory and made himself a new death suit. He didn't speak during the whole process, but looked up and looked at the screen above the Soul King Palace quietly. Although he had never experienced a life and death crisis, no matter what happened, he was that poker face, and would not let anyone see through his joys and sorrows. But when he saw Luffy's smile when he was facing death, he was still excited. Compared with Luffy, he lacked a sense of calmness. His utilitarianism was still too heavy. After all, he was carrying the future of the entire Kukaki family, so this responsibility had been suffocating him. He also wanted to be a free and unrestrained person like Luffy, but unfortunately, the duties of the head of the family prevented him from doing so. He wanted his sister, Kukaki Rukia, to grow up, but he couldn't disobey the orders of the 46th room of the Siraidii at the time. Byakuya's life was a life of helplessness. The suffocating feeling I had at the beginning reappeared when I faced the Invisible Empire. I won't lose next time. Kukaki Byakuya, looking at Senbonzakura who had lost her Bankai, tightened his grip on the hilt of the sword. Detective Dimension. Conan was leading the junior detective team to camp in the wild following the footsteps of Professor Agaza. On the way, everyone was very happy because they found that they could see the screen even on the ceiling of the beetle. Everyone began to chatter about the plot inside, and Conan saw the scene on the execution platform and couldn't help being moved. He subconsciously looked at Habara Ai who was sitting next to him. Why are you so depressed all the way? Conan saw that since seeing this scene, Huiwen Ai has been looking gloomy, as if she has something on her mind. Xiao Ai put her short hair behind her ears. In fact, I have been thinking about how I should face death. Should I face it positively or live in fear? Like the boy named Luffy on the screen, he can smile under the butcher's knife, so I wonder if I can still smile under Jin's gun. Gray was originally a very gloomy person, and his expression became even gloomier after he said this. Are you talking about some movie plot? Aomi, who was sitting next to him, heard what Huiwen said. But she couldn't understand what the other party said, just as if they were talking about movie lines. It is not shameful to feel fear in the face of death. Who is not afraid of death? Yes, yes, I would be terribly scared if I thought that I could no longer eat delicious eel rice. So there is no need to worry about things that have not happened. Even if it is because of cowardice, there is nothing to be ashamed of. Mitsuhiko and Genta also comforted Habara AI. Habara AI looked at their carefree faces and smiled for the first time in this trip. At this moment, a flash of lightning suddenly appeared in the sky. It just happened to hit the butcher knife that Buggy the Clown held high. In an instant, Buggy the Clown was struck by lightning and turned into charcoal. Straw Hat Luffy was unharmed. Even if the whole scaffold is on fire, there's not even a spark on Luffy. Then Luffy and his companions ran towards the port. They want to take advantage of the storm to escape the Navy's pursuit. The Navy Captain Smoker has long been eyeing Luffy and his crew. He had a horrible expression on his face. Because Straw Hat Luffy actually showed the same smile as the Pirate King Roger, who was executed on the execution platform 22 years ago. Knowing that Luffy is not a fish in the pond, how to get him into the Grand Line will definitely become the leader among pirates. So he is now determined to kill Straw Hat Luffy and others here no matter what. It's just that the Joker pirates were too noisy in the square. If we don't deal with them, it may cause panic among the people. The clown Bakafo was lucky enough not to be struck by lightning. Together with his pirate ally, Alrita the Iron Rod, he wants to capture Luffy again. Smoke's body turned into smoke. Like a snake or a chain, he immediately took action to control the Iron Bar Alrita, the clown Buggy and others in the square. Using his powerful smoke fruit ability, he instantly covered the entire square. Smoker's powerful control ability. The entire Joker pirates were captured in an instant. This powerful strength made the Joker pirates panic. Smoke handed these pirates over to his men. He took the rest of his men to capture Straw Hat Luffy and the others. Luffy will not allow anyone to stand in his way to the Grand Line. He instantly displayed his great strength and knocked the pursuing navy away. Unfortunately, as a user of the Nature Fruit ability, his ability is to completely suppress Luffy. When Smokey wanted to subdue Straw Hat Luffy, a strong hand suddenly grabbed the handle of his weapon. Half of the man's face was covered with strange tattoos. His eyes are as deep as the blue waters of an ancient well. Just a look made the smoker unable to move. That is the dragon who is the leader of the revolutionaries. He is the leader of a revolutionary army that can stir up a revolutionary wave in the world and confront the world government head-on. He is Luffy's father. In order to let his son embark on his own path, he took great risks and showed up in Rogue Town. A strong wind blew and Straw Hat Luffy escaped from Smoker's control. They immediately returned to the Advance Mary. Everyone headed towards Twin Gorges. Thanks to this strong wind, all the members of the Joker Pirates also broke free from their restraints. We plan to go to the Great Route together. One day, he will meet Straw Hat Luffy again. Because the Twin Gorges are extremely steep, there are countless pirate ships that have sunk in the sea. It's stormy weather again. Entering the Great Route is even more dangerous. So before they officially enter the entrance to the Grand Line, tell your dream to your boat, to the world, to your companions. They found a barrel and carried out one of the oldest pirate traditions. After everyone expressed their dreams, they put their feet on the barrel to express their determination. Sanji, I want to find the blue ocean. Luffy, I want to become the Pirate King. Zoro, I want to be the world's greatest swordsman. Nami, I want to draw a world map by myself. Usopp, I want to be a brave sea warrior. All members of the Straw Hat Pirates assemble and head towards the Grand Line. Chapter 43. Dragon Ball Plane. Although it has been delayed for a long time, the Cell games are still going on. The perfect Cell is not at all inferior to a group of Super Saiyans. The first to play, Son Goku, fought him to a draw, and Cell even had a stronger recovery ability than Son Goku. Later, when the two were halfway through the fight, Goku directly proposed to admit defeat and let the others continue to fight with Cell. At this moment, the screen in their sky was playing a clip of Luffy and others escaping to the ship and heading for the Grand Line. Cell fully recovered his fighting power after eating the senzu beans, but he also asked everyone to take a break. In fact, he was not feeling tired, but wanted to take a closer look at the plot on the screen. Sure enough, in the end, it's all about family background. If Luffy didn't have his father's help, he might be arrested by the Navy soon. Cell, an orphan created by the Red Ribbon Corps, doesn't understand human affection, but because his body is mixed with genes of many kinds of humans, Namekians, Scions, etc., he still longs to have his own family from the bottom of his heart. Although in the program, he wants to kill Son Goku and rule the world, but the completely destroyed desert is not the kingdom he wants to rule. In order to evolve into a perfect body, Cell completely ignored the death of humans and used his thick tail to absorb all the energy of humans into his body. The more people he absorbed, the stronger his ability was. At that time, he had only one thought, which was to quickly surpass the group of crazy improving scions and not let himself be killed by Trunks in the future. The tragedy happened again. Now his thoughts have changed. He wants to live on Middle-earth for a while to try, or go directly into space to find his own destination. Having a family is a very happy thing. Shailu's expression gradually became gloomy. Spy plane. At first, Luffy was held on the execution platform and his limbs could not move. The butcher knife was raised high and was about to chop off the scene. Anya didn't dare to watch it at all. She could only cover her eyes and hide behind Bond's butt. Bond was also very considerate and used his white and strong body to block Anya's sight, preventing her from seeing such a bloody scene. But Anya was still very curious, secretly lying beside Bond's butt, looking at the screen on the ceiling. A flash of lightning successfully saved Luffy, and then he was pressed to the ground by the Navy Captain Smoke. Anya hid back again, not daring to watch the scene of Luffy being caught. At this time, Bond shouted. Anya dared to open his eyes and continue to watch the screen. He found that Dragon had saved Luffy from Smoke's control. In an instant, Anya ran out of his room and came to his parents' bedroom. At this moment, Lloyd was reading a classic on the bed. Anya suddenly rushed in from outside the room and threw himself on him. Lloyd didn't figure out what was going on. He just gently stroked Anya's hair and told her to go back to sleep. Anya buried her little face in her father's chest. Anya will sleep with her father tonight. Anya acted like a normal child in her parents' arms. Lloyd sighed, put Anya next to him, and covered her with a blanket. Have a good rest, I will take you to school tomorrow. Lloyd's magnetic voice made Anya feel very relaxed, just like Luffy was protected by his father Dragon, and she also had her father's meticulous care for her. Anya held Lloyd's arm and fell asleep sweetly. The challenge they are facing now is to climb a mountain by boat. Following the ocean current, rushing up along the winding mountain road. Then I reached the other side of the mountain, which was almost vertical, and jumped off a cliff. And ensure that the ship does not suffer fatal damage. And Nami also gave them a very scary fact. The Grand Route is actually a route sandwiched between two doldrums. If you accidentally deviate and enter the doldrums. Since all they can use now are sailboats propelled by wind. Therefore, once entering the doldrums, it is difficult to provide power. At the same time, there are sea beasts living in the doldrums that are as big as mountains. They are called sea kings. The calm belt is the nest of these giant sea kings. The Lord of the Sea and the one that looked like a cow that they had seen before were all small or medium-sized sea kings. Compared with the sea beasts in front of them, their size is like the situation when the dwarves face the giants. So they had to go to great lengths to rowing the boat back to the stormy course. On both sides of the Twin Gorges are the towering red earth continents. If you don't have superb boat driving skills, your boat will crash into the red soil continent. The Navy headquarters and the celestial dragons they are loyal to. They all live on the top of the red earth continent. Everyone worked together and finally passed through the Twin Gorges and officially entered the Grand Line. Facing them was a black whale that looked like a giant sea king. It's just that his forehead seemed to be covered with horrible scars. The low roar it made everyone's eardrums hurt. And they accidentally entered the body of the whale. The whale's body had long been transformed by an old man who looked like a flower. He was once the ship doctor of Pirate King Roger, Crocus. He guards the lighthouse at Twin Gorges on the Red Earth Road. To provide a little light at night for every passing ship. This whale named Lab was given to Crocus by a group of pirates many years ago. It was just that Lab seemed to be stimulated by something and kept hitting the Red Earth continent with his head. Want to find your companion? Two mysterious killers sneaked into the whale. They are MR9 and MRS Wednesday. They are both killers of Baroque Studio. But due to his weak strength, he was captured by the Straw Hat Pirates. I learned from Crocus that 50 years ago, a pirate ship called the Music Pirates successfully passed through the Twin Gorges. They brought a whale who loved music with them, Rab. But the road ahead is very dangerous. So they took the little whale Lab that they had adopted and placed it with him. Wait for them to complete their voyage and then come back to find it. But 50 years have passed since this foster care. Unfortunately, Lab's feelings for them were too deep. So no matter what, he had to find his former companion again. No matter how Kuricus persuaded him, Lab would not listen. Just bang your head against the red earth every day. Even a whale has feelings and loyalty. What's more, people are not as affectionate as whales. Luffy immediately came up with a good idea. He first deliberately provoked Rab and had a fight with him. The inextricable battle between a man and a whale. So Luffy made a promise with Lab. After Luffy traveled around the Grand Line, he found Laboon again and dueled with him. In order to stop Lab from continuing to hit the Red Earth continent with his head, he died. So Luffy drew the flag of the Straw Hat Pirates on his forehead. Unless Luffy and Labo meet again. Even Lab couldn't let the logo on the pirate flag above his head be knocked off. This is a disguised way of stopping Rab from continuing to ram his head against the Red Earth continent. This is the agreement between Luffy and Lab. Chapter 44. The Food Hunter Plane. At this moment, Alu and Xiao Song were enjoying a rare afternoon. They had just eaten and drunk enough, and they lay on their backs under the jelly tree. From the roots, trunks, leaves to the fruits, all the strange trees were made of jelly, which was the best dessert for their afternoon. At this moment, a white figure appeared beside Alu. It was Terry. The descendant of the mysterious race that was supposed to have been extinct, the Fighting Wolf. Alu looked at the screen that appeared in the sky. The agreement between the boy named Luffy and the whale Lab made him feel very moved. At this moment, Terry didn't look like the ancient beast Fighting Wolf. It was like a cute big dog crawling directly beside Alu. Alu gently stroked the Fighting Wolf's fur with his broad palm, recalling the way they first met. Looking back, when the clone Talang, which was cultivated from the gourmet cells, gave birth, Terry's mother had extremely strong fighting power and could fight the demon Orokai. However, because she had just given birth, her body was very weak and she was killed by the GT machine. Alu avenged Talang and repelled the GT machine. Since then, Terry has been following Alu closely and has become his inseparable partner. Just like the friendship between Luffy and Lab, although their language cannot communicate directly, their hearts are in harmony with each other. As long as they are together, they are comrades and partners who can entrust their lives to each other. I really hope you can get out of the shadow of losing your mother. After all, life is so beautiful, and there are so many delicious foods waiting for us to discover and taste. Don't always live in the shadows. Terry understood what Alu said and rubbed his big head against Alu's chest. Spy plane. As Anya went to the academy, Lloyd took Bond for a walk on the street. He was thinking about how to turn Bond into a helper to protect Anya and give Bond professional police dog training. Little did he know that Bond was not an ordinary dog. He was conducting special genetic experiments under the old regime of the East Country with military as the main purpose. This group of crazy scientists wanted to produce special dogs with intelligence comparable to that of humans. Their operation codename was the Apple Project. Unfortunately, due to the departure of funds and key personnel, the Apple Project had to be shelved. These experimental rites headed by Bond were centralized and handled. When Anya met Bond, Bond was bought by a group of radical college students to engage in terrorist activities. Tie a bomb on the dog and drive it into a crowded place. When Dusk solved the college student incident and successfully rescued Bond, Bond saved Anya's life. At that time, Bond really joined this big family, and Bond had a high IQ and the ability to predict. He looked at the screen above his head, which was constantly flashing images, and his thick white tail was shaking constantly, because he could see in the future. The whale named Rab must be able to wait for his real companion, even if his companion looked completely different from 50 years ago. At this moment, Bond had found his family. He wanted to perform well in front of his master and use his predictive ability to help the Folger family avoid all potential dangers. The dragon team led by Chen Long successfully intercepted Dao Long. They used the spell as bait to lure Dao Long out of his hidden world. They quickly surrounded Dao Long, but they didn't expect that Dao Long had learned a lot of black magic by observing the screen above his head. Just a glance, a large amount of black air enveloped everyone like smoke. I learned this move from a young man named Smoker in Rogue Town. I didn't expect it to be so useful. The black gas released by Dao Long has no concrete entity, but it can stick to Chen Long and others like cotton candy, making them unable to move. Just when they were about to be annihilated, a dog barked suddenly from the corner. It was the voice of Xiao's dog, Zgrove. He used to be the carrier of the dog spell, but later the power of the dog spell was taken away by the Lord. Later, at Xiao's strong request, Zgrove became Xiao's pet. Zgrove's figure was very flexible. He went directly through the gap in the black gas and bit fiercely. He grabbed Dao Long's hand that was holding the staff. Since Daolong used the staff to cast spells, he soon threw the staff out because of the pain. This left a huge opportunity for Qianlong and others. But before they could make a move, Xiaoyu, with her T-core, had subdued Daolong, who had lost his staff. On Daolong's weak body sat a big fat pig. And on the pig stood a big rooster. Xiaoyu picked up Daolong's staff and threw it far away. Zgrove continued to bite Daolong's wrist, and no matter what tricks he played. Yet, today is another day when the T-core wins a great victory. After handing Daolong over to the police officers of District 13, Xiaoyu led her team to cheer. Although Qianlong did not quite agree with Xiaoyu getting involved in such a dangerous matter, he just smiled with satisfaction when he saw that Xiaoyu had made a great contribution. Nami is a very studious person. He learned some of the rules of the Grand Route from Kurikas. Since the magnetic poles in the Grand Line are very chaotic, so ordinary compasses are of no use. Important item record pointer to the next island. As long as you stay on an island for a long enough time, the location of the next island will be recorded by the record pointer. They can find the next island by following the direction of the pointer. The one who originally wanted to assassinate the pirate Luffy and his crew, MR9 and MRS, were assassinated by Baroque Studio on Wednesday. Luffy and the others were very surprised. Why did they suffer assassination by their own companions? However, due to the special circumstances, the two dared not tell the truth. Just ask everyone to take them to the nearest town. Luffy agreed to let the two of them board the ship without hesitation. Take them down to the next island, Whiskey Mountain. The climate of the Grand Route is completely different from that of the outside world. Sometimes the sun was shining brightly the last second. A heavy snowstorm may start in the next second. They were only traveling for a few days. Almost experienced 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. This is the extreme weather on the Grand Route, a very abnormal phenomenon. Under Nami's command, they successfully broke through. After going through so much hardship, Luffy finally arrived at his destination. From a distance, the entire island looks like it is covered with giant cacti. Before landing on the island, the two agents jumped off the boat and went into the sea. What Luffy and his companions did not expect was that they were warmly welcomed by the Icelanders before they even landed on the island. They called this welcoming town Whiskey Hill, and they were greeted with delicious food, fine wine and lively banquets. Luffy was so happy, he loved having parties the most. At the banquet, everyone ate and drank to their heart's content. The Icelanders kept competing with them in drinking. Everyone is happy and joyful. They even held a drinking and eating competition. As a result, after Zoro drank the 13th person, he fell asleep. Nami drank 15 people down and was still full of energy. It's just that the nun on the opposite side looks particularly powerful. No matter how much you drink, the other party can't drink it down. Luffy ate so much that he exhausted the 3 chefs. Everyone enters their own gentle land and falls into a deep sleep. And while they were sleeping, the townspeople also showed their fangs. Chapter 45. Detective Plane. The junior detective team and others arrived at their camping destination, but their entertainment activities changed from exploring to sitting by the campfire and watching the video on the screen above their heads. Conan felt very relieved. After all, once they entered the forest for exploration, they might encounter some bizarre cases, or they might encounter a campus expedition team that had a mountain accident. Or they might see lovers turning from love to hate, and loving and killing each other on the cliffs in the forest. Conan himself knew very well that he had a physique that would kill people wherever he went. So staying where you are is at least the safest way. At this moment, the junior detective team breathed a sigh of relief when they saw Luffy and others pass through the thrilling Twin Gorge, come to Whiskey Mountain, and were warmly welcomed by the local residents. I never thought that Luffy and his friends would meet such a good person. It was a rare opportunity for them to rest during their thrilling journey. Ayami's naive thoughts made Habara Ai, who was sitting next to her, sneer. Ayami asked in confusion. Huiwen, what are you laughing at? Is what I said wrong? Huiwen fixed her hair and yawned. I didn't expect that after going through so many things, you are still so naive. Do you still remember the Blue Castle incident we experienced before? Ai Habara's words immediately evoked not so good memories for the junior detective team. At that time, they had experienced a life and death experience. Originally, all members were warmly welcomed by the owner of the castle and came to stay with them for a while. Unexpectedly, they were involved in a bloody case caused by a puzzle set by the former owner of the castle. Then, the old woman in a wheelchair, disguised as the lady of the castle, attacked the junior detective team one after another. That was the old woman who looked the most harmless. She turned out to be the culprit who kidnapped Conan, knocked out the doctor, and even captured Genta and imprisoned him. If Mitsuhiko hadn't been particularly smart at the time, he would have used the tracking glasses on the ground to rescue Conan and the others. If it was a minute later, Aihibara and Ayami might have hated Zibe on the spot. After all, that A guy disguised as an old woman, but he was a terrifying existence who burned the castle owner's family to death. Killing a few more insignificant children, the old man was no psychological burden to her. But the most pitiful one was not Conan and his friends. It was the castle maid who had plastic surgery to look like an old woman, the murderer. In the end, Conan solved the puzzle left by the previous owner of the castle. The so-called treasure is the beautiful scenery left on the roof of the castle and the ownership of the castle. Treasures of this level are not worth mentioning at all. The fake old woman who was originally sure of victory and used the secret passage of the castle to kill 7 times finally shed tears of regret. Ayami recalled the case again. She also felt a chill all over her body. Huira Ai continued to express her inner thoughts. It is very likely that the group of residents who warmly entertained Luffy and his friends were the gods of death who wanted to take their lives, and wanted to take advantage of Luffy and his friends' least vigilance to give them a fatal blow. Although Conan didn't want to admit it, he felt that Hibara Ai was right. It turns out that this so-called welcoming town, Whiskey Hill, it's actually a bounty hunter's hideout. Most of the people inside are bounty hunters or killers. The nun who had a drinking contest with Nami before. It is Mr. Monday from Baroque Studio. His partner is the mayor of the small town who greets them, Mr. 8, an agent from Baroque Studio. Their way of getting rich is simple. Taking advantage of the psychology of rookie pirates entering the Grand Line for the first time. Lure those pirate groups here. After killing them, they rob the treasure on the ship. Hand over the pirate with the bounty to the navy to receive the reward. What is even more frightening is that, on the stone mountain that looks like a cactus from a distance, the dense thorns on the cactus are actually tombstones of pirates who were killed here one after another. Unfortunately, they missed one thing. That is the Straw Hat Pirates, who has a very vigilant person. That is Zoro, who was once a bounty hunter and had just obtained 2 new swords. He had been pretending to be drunk in order to paralyze these killers. And he will achieve the feat of killing 100 people under the moonlight on Whiskey Mountain. In just one encounter, more than a dozen people were chopped down by Zoro. The residents here, whether old, young, male or female, are the most insidious killers. The weapons of these killers are far superior to Zoro's. They were armed with swords, guns, sticks. There are even hot weapons such as guns and cannons. But these people are really too slow. Although holding a more lethal weapon, there is no way to avoid Zoro's attack. Just a flash. Zoro cut down several more. Even if 10 people attacked together, they would be chopped down by Zoro in an instant. The powerful fighting power displayed by Zoro. Even let these killers think that this guy is the real captain. That Straw Hat Luffy worth 30 million berries is just a straw bag. Finally, the few people who were still standing were the main force of Baroque Studio. But these people are totally not enough. In just a few breaths, Zoro cut down the 4 men. Just when Zoro was about to go back after the fight, 2 killers with powerful auras slowly walked in from outside the town. It was as if the headquarters of Baroque Studio knew something big was going to happen here. So they sent 2 top killers, Mr. 5 and Mrs. Valentine. All male killers with code number 5 and above are users of Devil Fruit abilities. Female killers whose code names contain special holidays are also masters. But these 2 people are not targeting the Straw Hat Pirates. Instead, they came to kill their companions. It wasn't that there was an internal conflict among the members of the Baroque Studio. Mr. 8 is actually the captain of the Alabasta Kingdom Guard. Mrs. Wednesday's real identity is the Princess of Alabasta, Vivi. They are complete spies. Mr. 5 and Mrs. Valentine were sent by the boss to clean up the mess. These 2 killers, one has eaten the gravity fruit, and the other has eaten the bomb fruit. All body parts of Mr. 5 can be turned into bombs. The most commonly used trick is the booger cannon. The boogers he pops can cause huge explosions. Mrs. Valentine, who possesses the gravity fruit, can adjust her weight freely. She can turn her weight into 1 kilogram and use the explosive hurricane created by Mr. 5 to fly directly with an umbrella. Then she instantly came to the top of the target's head, an Mrs. Valentine instantly increased her weight to 10,000 kilograms. The body fell instantly, smashing the target directly into the ground. Princess Vivi and others are no match for the two killers. The captain of the Alabasta Kingdom Guard was lying on the ground. When begging for mercy and promising huge rewards, a crisp girl next to him suddenly answered. As long as you give me 1 billion berries, I can escort Princess Vivi back to your kingdom. The captain of the guard team turned around and saw that it was the little thief Nami. It turned out that she was also pretending to be drunk. Chapter 46. Monster Plane. Not only the Hero Association is studying the screen above their heads, but also the people in the Monster Association are studying it. Monster King Orokai has ordered his researchers to study the abilities and special tactics on the screen in detail. As the advisor of the Monster Association, the Great Eyes, who has the ability of clairvoyance, came directly to report to His Majesty Orokai. We have analyzed in detail the moves used by Zoro, who killed hundreds of assassins at Whiskey Mountain. We found that the moves he used were even more powerful than those of the Atomic Samurai of the Hero Association, so we are training the newly trained soldiers so that they can master the relevant moves of Zoro in the video, and then combined with the physical fitness of the monsters, they will definitely be invincible. This way, when we fight against S-class heroes, our chances of winning will be even greater. This is a new force. While rubbing his hands, Big Eyes reported his recent research to Orokai. Orokai didn't know much about these things, he just gave them permission to do what they wanted. I only look at the final result. If the new forces you created are not strong enough to fight against S-class heroes, then you will be punished by me. The terrifying aura emanating from the snake directly blasted the Big Eye 10 meters away. His huge single eye even bleeds. Facing the capricious Monster King, the Big Eye can only return to his laboratory to conduct research again. Black Sperm and the Ugly President, who are also dragon-level monsters, watched the video above their heads together. The Ugly President loves comics, so he watched it with relish. Black Sperm just glanced at it twice and was a little impatient. These guys are really weak. If I were to deal with them, I could just wave my hand and the battle would be over. Before the Black Sperm finished speaking, he heard the voice of the president beside him. Rubber, rubber, rubber pistol. The Ugly President punched the black man sitting next to him. If you don't want to watch, go to the side. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will destroy all your cells. The Black Sperm has many clones. Killing one or two of them will not cause any harm to his original body. After recovering his body, he spat at the Ugly President and returned to his room. Hunter Plane. The princes of the Kingdom of Kaken are gradually awakening. They are gradually becoming familiar with their own mind beasts and mind abilities. The group of hunters they hired at a high price before also began to perform their duties and assassinate the subordinates of other princes and even the princes themselves. At this moment, Kurapika discovered that many of the bodyguards were actually spies sent by other princes. In order to ensure the safety of the 14 princes, they must be checked one by one. Kurapika looked up and saw the video playing on the screen in the sky. A swordsman appeared on the screen and killed all the assassins in a village. Is this another sign? Is it a hint that I should kill all of them? Kurapika watched the pendulum in his hand swing gently. He knew that he had discovered another assassin hidden in the bodyguard group. And this time he didn't intend to show mercy. The misunderstanding has been resolved, and Vivi has gone from being an enemy of the Straw Hat Pirates to someone they want to protect. Now that Nami has set her goal, they will definitely bring Princess Vivi back to his kingdom smoothly. But Nami was still careless. She had originally thought that this group of killers were average in strength. Zoro alone can chop down a group of killers. Isn't it a sure thing to send Princess Vivi back? After listening to the introduction of the captain of the guard, Nami realized that she was still too young. But once you accept this task, this means that the Straw Hat Pirates will have a feud with Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. The Baroque studio he leads will also fight them to the death. Have they met the 7 warlords of the sea? Hawkeye Mihawk, who directly killed Zoro, is one of the 7 warlords of the sea. The fishman Arlong who caused psychological trauma to Nami. He is also the brother of Jinbei, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Crocodile's strength is probably evenly matched with theirs. Nami felt like crying but had no tears. I was given such a tragic task all of a sudden. Things here are not over yet. Luffy starts to make trouble again. Luffy, who just woke up, was confused. The townspeople who were originally having a banquet with him were now seriously injured and fell to the ground. Luffy helped a town resident up and learned from him that it was his crew member Zoro who chopped them down. Luffy thought that Zoro got drunk and started fighting with the townspeople. This impolite behavior made Luffy very annoyed. So the two of them actually started a duel. The two of them didn't take Mr. 5 and Mrs. Valentine's Day beside them seriously at all. During the duel between the two, he even knocked away the two assassins who got involved. Zoro and Luffy are about to have an unprecedented duel at Whiskey Mountain. It's a pity that Nami stopped him before the duel even started. Each of them had a big bag on his head. After knocking down the two killers, they took Princess Vivi to a safe place. From her, I learned that the precarious Alabasta Kingdom was gradually being eroded by Baroque Studios. The mastermind behind all this is Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Seeing that her opponent was so strong, Nami immediately backed off. It's a pity that the enemy didn't give him this opportunity. The two agents of the Baroque studio who were hiding in the dark, Mr. 13, an otter wearing sunglasses, and Mrs. Friday, a vulture wearing sunglasses, have already drawn their appearances. The two flew back directly and informed the headquarters. Now, the Straw Hat Pirates can't refuse. The appearance of Straw Hat Luffy and others was exposed, forcing them to stand with Princess Vivi and others. In order to distract the pursuers, the captain of the Alabasta Kingdom's guard disguised himself as Princess Vivi. Take the dummy with you on the boat to lure away the killer from Baroque Studios. The ship had not sailed far when a shocking explosion was heard on the sea. The captain of the escort sank into the sea along with the entire ship. Sitting on the ruins was a woman wearing a hat and looking quite mature. She is the second in command of Baroque Studio, Ms. Chuan Sunday, Nicole Robin. Everyone thought the plan was perfect, but Robin thought it was childish. She reached the Advance Mary without much difficulty. Robin had no ill intentions, she just said hello to the Straw Hat Pirates on the boat. As soon as they met, Robin showed his strong strength. A's the only person who knows the identity of the boss behind the scenes. Not only is she powerful, but her attitude towards the Straw Hat Pirates is also very ambiguous. After saying a few meaningless words, Robin disappeared directly on the ship. Luffy has a feeling that he will have a lot of friendship with this woman. Chapter 47. Detective Dimension. Conan's people went camping in the wild, while Xylan and Sonoko were invited to watch the karate competition in which Kyogoku Makoto participated. This competition has a strong performance nature. Some newcomers with potential in the field of karate can compete with the masters of the previous sessions. And Kyogoku Makoto is called the Prince of Kicks. His kicking skills are unparalleled in the world. He is honored to be invited as a guest and become the object of respect for some new karate players. Kyogoku Makoto invited Sonoko and others to come and also wanted to show himself. Sonoko and Xylan sat in the stands in the golden position. Here you can see the whole performance at a glance. However, Sonoko's mind seemed to be not on this karate exhibition match at all. She kept glancing at the screen above the stadium. There happened to be a video showing Robin wearing a top hat and tight little leather boots sitting on the fence of the Go Merry. Almost as soon as he appeared, he sat directly in the center of the Straw Hat Pirates. This mysterious and powerful appearance is especially like an idol that Sonoko likes. That is Kaido Kid, who is known as the Magician Under the Moon. Wow, he and Kid's appearances are similar. They are both so unexpected, and Sister Robin is so cool. I like her so much. Sonoko's eyes were full of stars again, which gave Xylan a headache. Mariko, why are you like this again? You came to watch Kyogoku Makoto's karate match today, why are you thinking about someone else? What does it matter? It won't affect either of us. At this time, Kyogoku Shin used a beautiful kick and kicked his opponent out of the field. Sonoko immediately stood up and cheered for Kyogoku Shin. Ah Zhen, you are so handsome. Kyogoku Shin blushed immediately and waved in the direction of Sonoko, Xylan, and others. You see, I told you that we can do both. Yuanzi said to Xylan as if showing off. Well, I was really defeated by you. Xiaolan was speechless. Spy plane. Anya is currently studying boring math knowledge in Eden College. The content above makes her anxious, but if she does not learn this knowledge firmly, she will most likely get a bomb if she gets a bad test score. In the end, when Anya was learning arithmetic, she had to stretch out her fingers and count them one by one. Only in this way can she learn arithmetic clearly. It's a pity that she only has 10 fingers, and addition and subtraction above 10 are not possible. In addition, their learning content includes fractions, multiplication, and division, and the use of fingers has far lagged behind the progress of their subjects. At this time, Anya accidentally looked up and saw Nico Robin appearing on the screen on the ceiling of the classroom. As the user of the petal fruit, Nico Robin can increase the value of her organs. She can create a lot of hands at once. I really envy that big sister named Nico Robin. She can change into many fingers. If I have the same ability as her, then arithmetic will be a simple thing for me. In fact, if Anya is more careful, she will find that Nico Robin on the screen has not shown her complete devil fruit ability at all. The screen does not clearly show the scene of Nico Robin splitting her hands or feet. But Anya in another world plane clearly reads Robin's strength from her heart. It seems that different world planes are intersecting and even merging. Before disappearing, Nick Robin told them the general situation of the next island. It's a dangerous island. No one who entered the island ever came out again. Any pirate with a little common sense would avoid this island. It is an island full of primitive atmosphere called Little Garden. The well-informed Princess Vivi predicted the difficult road ahead. But the Straw Hat Pirates didn't take it to heart at all. Instead, they started eating and drinking a lot on the boat. Vivi was very dissatisfied with their lack of vigilance at first. But Nami persuaded her to relax. All your troubles will vanish on this ship. Just like this, we played and quarreled all the way. They finally arrived at the second island after entering the Grand Line. But compared to the name, this is really too different. Why is such a large island called a small garden? And they found many ancient creatures on the island that were supposed to be extinct. This island is full of adventure. Luffy and the others must go in and explore. Nami asked everyone to wait on the boat. After the recording pointer has recorded all the magnetic lines here, you can set off. There is no need to go to the island. If Luffy could listen to Nami, he would not be Luffy. Luffy ignored the advice of others and went to the island for adventure. Finally, only Nami and Usopp were left on the ship. They are the cowardly duo of the pirate group. On this small island, they discovered dinosaurs that were supposed to be extinct. Luffy even slides on the neck of Brachiosaurus. Just as Luffy and others were enjoying the excitement of exploring the island. A huge figure, covering the entire Go Merry. Nami was originally looking for information about the small garden in the library. Seeing that huge figure, Nami was paralyzed by fear. An ancient book explains in detail why this place is called the Little Garden. For the residents living here, this island is just like a small yard. The inhabitants of this island are a small but extremely powerful tribe of giants. Nami and Usopp were already frightened. I saw the kind-looking giant. He was dressed in Viking attire. He is very gentle to Nami and Usopp. After all, there haven't been any new guests in the small garden for a long time. His strength is extremely strong. A Tyrannosaurus suddenly bit his butt. He chopped off the head of the Tyrannosaurus Rex with an axe. Luffy and his friends also encountered another giant tribe. He held a long sword. Just one sword cut the long neck of the Brachiosaurus that just swallowed Luffy in half. Save Luffy from the Brachiosaurus. According to their self-introduction, they are the Blue Demon Turai and the Red Demon Broki of the giant pirates. They had a dispute at first. According to the customs of their giant race, a duel is necessary. Only those who survive are warriors favored by God. So they used this island as their duel field. It's just that the two of them are fighting hard. It has been 100 years since the two sides have maintained the status quo. Seeing the guests coming to the small garden, they skinned and deboned the dinosaur they had just killed and made a barbecue for everyone. While everyone was accepting the hospitality of the giants, the killer lurking in the dark had already set his sights on them. Chapter 48. Whenever the volcano on the island erupted, the two giant warriors. A battle of glory will be waged. The two sides fought to the death in the center of the island. But both sides still suffered losses, dragging their tired bodies back to their respective bases. This is the result of their 73,466 battles and 73,466 draws. But this time, an accident happened. The wine that Aoki Turai was drinking while chatting and drinking with Luffy and others suddenly exploded. It caused great damage to his internal organs and body. So Dong Li suspected that the Straw Hat Luffy and others who followed him put explosives in the wine. Even if he was hurt, he would not doubt his comrades. Instead, he directed his attack at Luffy, who was drinking with him just now. However, the seriously injured Dong Li is no match for Luffy at this moment. Luffy uses a rubber rocket. He knocked Dong Li down and made him faint on the ground. And at the edge of the small garden, there appeared a house made of wax. There are two people drinking tea leisurely. They are Mr. 3, the killer candle man from Baroque Studio, and his partner, Mrs. Golden Week, who has the ability of the painting fruit. Mr. 5 and Mrs. Valentine, who were defeated by Luffy and others before, also reunited in the candle house. Mr. 3 thinks he is very intelligent. So the explosion caused by the alcohol Dong Li drank before was all planned by him. His goal is very simple, to kill these two members of the giant pirates with a bounty of 100 million yen. Kill them and collect the bounty on their heads. At this moment, the volcano erupted again, and the duel between the two giants began again. At this moment, Dong Li, who was seriously injured and dying, propped himself up and still wanted to go to the appointment. After all, it is their battle of honor, and they cannot be absent for any reason. Luffy, who wanted to stop him, was directly pressed down the mountain by Turai. No matter what, he would not allow others to stop the duel. Luffy was furious at the guy who shot him in the back. But he couldn't stop anything. He could only watch as the blue ghost Dong Li, who was heading for the duel, was knocked to the ground by his good friend with an axe. Red Ghost Brocky hasn't been excited about his victory for long. Mr. 3 and Mrs. Golden Week appeared before their eyes. At this moment, Brocky's legs were wrapped in white wax and fixed in place, unable to move. From Mr. 3, Brocky learned that before Dong Li dueled with him, Dong Li has been seriously injured due to the conspiracy of Mr. 3 and others. Their previous competition was not fair at all. Everything is a conspiracy of the killers of Baroque Studio. Brocky was so angry at the moment that he could do nothing. The Straw Hat Pirates were almost wiped out. Luffy was pressed under the stone mountain by Dong Li. Nami and Zoro were deceived by Mrs. Golden Week's disguise. Tied tightly by the candle lock. The ducks around Usopp and Princess Vivi were turned into charcoal by Mr. 5's bomb ability. Vivi herself was captured alive by Mr. 5. Mr. 3 came up with a very cruel method of execution. He transformed a huge candlestick. Pinned Nami, Zoro, and Vivi on it. As the candles above continue to rotate, the floating candle liquid gradually enveloped their bodies. By then they will become living wax figures. Everything was going in the worst direction. But Luffy, who was pressed under the stone mountain, did not give up hope. Looking at Kuroya and Usopp, who were gradually struggling to stand up from the ground, they still have a strong desire to fight. Holy Lord Plain. Dad applied to go to District 13 to visit Daolong, who was imprisoned there, because he knew Daolong was a magician who could get new magic inspiration directly by watching the video on the screen. Dad felt that his magic level had gradually reached a bottleneck, so he also wanted to make his magic go further by observing the screen above his head. And he also had the obligation to teach his magic apprentice True. He hoped that one day True would be able to inherit his mantle. As a master, while he was still alive, his apprentice was gradually surpassing himself. This sense of crisis forced him to make progress. So he applied to Sheriff Bright. He came to District 13 alone and saw Daolong, who was imprisoned at the bottom of the magic prison. At this moment, he was sitting cross-legged on the ground. In front of him were 3 ancient coins. If I'm not mistaken, the coins in front of you are not allowed to be put into the prison. The old man adjusted his glasses and came to Daolong. There was a magic barrier between them that could block any magic. Daolong slowly opened his eyes and picked up the ancient coins on the ground one by one and put them in his arms. No matter where you are, as long as you pay enough money, you can have some privileges, and you see these 3 ancient coins, which is a way for me to exercise my privileges. Dad narrowed his eyes, knowing that Daolong would never do useless work. If I'm not mistaken, you are using a very ancient oriental magic, a kind of divination called Lu Yao Jin Qian. Daolong did not comment, and smiled at his father, who had a sad face. I have calculated that you will meet me today, and you will ask me about how to improve your magic ability. I once thought that the key to improving magic lies in those amulets with magical powers, but now, I find myself. I know that God has given us a very good hint. Let us, the magicians who are stuck in the bottleneck, not evolve again. Dad was stunned by Daolong's words. He looked up and saw the video of the 2 giants fighting each other. Do you mean to say that what is written there is the instruction from God? Dad was a little unbelievable. He saw it as just some traditional plots in boring comics, which could not give him any unique magic inspiration. If we have another magic contest, I believe you are definitely not my opponent. Daolong shook his fingers, and in an instant, the glasses on the bridge of Dad's nose appeared in his hand. This scene surprised Dad very much. Surprisingly, the barrier between them could block all magic, but Daolong could take things from the air. How did you do that? Daolong waved his hand again, and the glasses returned to his father's face. It's all very simple. As long as we make a deal, I can tell you everything I know, and I can also tell you how to learn from the video. The conditions proposed by Daolong were very tempting, and his request was not particularly excessive. After obtaining the permission of Sheriff Blake, Dad prepared some things for Daolong, including rat feces, dust from the bottom of the pot, and a whole scorpion's tail. These things are not the materials of magic props at all. Even if Dad looked through all the magic books, he couldn't find similar formulas. So Dad packed these materials and sent them to Daolong, who was imprisoned in the cage with great confidence. And Daolong was very trustworthy and handed Dad a parchment he had just written. Dad couldn't wait any longer, unfolded the parchment, and began to write all the ways to practice magic using videos. Without further ado, with the help of True, Dad began to cast a new magic. He dipped the dried puffer fish that he had kept at hand into the magic potion he had just prepared, and suddenly a black and green light intersected into the sky, creating a strong fusion with the screen in the sky. World channel signal enhancement completed. More parallel worlds are opening up. The short video screen was halfway through playing when a system voice suddenly came, and this voice was broadcast simultaneously in all known parallel world planes. Chapter 49. The Holy Lord Plane. Daddy was very confused about the distortion of the screen. He was completely bewildered. According to the magic on the parchment, the potion made by the formula did not have such a strong ability to travel through space. In fact, Daddy's magic did enhance the signal on the screen above the heads of the 10,000 worlds characters. More space planes were connected. Oh no, Chen Long, come and help. Dad hurriedly called Chen Long, hoping that he could help him beat down the dried pufferfish that kept emitting powerful magic. Chen Long did not disappoint him. He picked up the golf club he had just bought. He split the floating pufferfish emitting black and green light in half. Xiao Yezhu, who was standing next to him, was very upset, because the newly bought golf club was a gift Xiao had prepared for his parents. He wanted to persuade his parents to stay with Uncle Long for a while longer. Looking at the golf club that had been corroded and deformed, Xiao Yu's heart sank. Demon Slayer. Butterfly House. Just finished, I saw Tanjiro, who was practicing, carefully wiping the Nichiren sword in his hand. This was what Mr. Kautsuka had sent to me before. But in the sky, thunder rumbled. Suddenly, it turned from a sunny day to a rainy day, but there was only thunder in the sky, but no raindrops fell. Tanjiro hurried to the yard to help Zayakoi and the others put the dried bedding and clothes into the house. Really, we observed that it was a sunny day today, why did it suddenly become cloudy? Several members of the Demon Slayer Corps who were in charge of logistics in the Butterfly House couldn't help but complain. Before they could finish saying bad things about God, a thunderbolt suddenly struck the yard, and then the sky began to flicker. When the flickering stopped, a huge screen appeared in front of everyone. At this time, the video was the scene of the Straw Hat Pirates being pressed to the ground and hammered by the Baroque studio. Wow, a monster has appeared. Inashuk, who was resting in the Butterfly House like Tanjiro, suddenly shouted excitedly. Pig rush, pig rush. Inashuk started running, and then chose a higher platform. He jumped into the sky, and the screen seemed not to be very far from the ground. Inashuk actually chopped the screen directly. But the screen was like fog, and he couldn't cut it at all. Inashuk turned over and stood firmly on the ground. Could it be a mirage? What we saw was just an illusion, but why was the person on the screen so different in clothing and body shape from us? Could it be a new ghost? Although Tanjiro had not been to school, he still knew some basic common sense. He was very alert to the sudden appearance of the screen. Could this be some new blood demon technique? But everyone waited for a long time and nothing happened. It seemed that the screen had no intention of attacking them at all. The video continued to play on the screen. Luffy turned the tide of the battle with his own strength. Just as Zoro and Broky were lying on the ground trying to break free by cutting off their own limbs. When the fight with Mr. Third was a life and death struggle. A trio suddenly emerged from the jungle. It was Usopp and Kurodak who were defeated by Mr. Five before and Luffy who just escaped. It's a pity that they completely underestimated the existence of Ms. Golden Week. Her die fruit ability can give others very powerful psychological. Luffy and the others were fooled by her. Usopp and Kuroyuru are in a very miserable situation. One man and one duck were chased and beaten by Mr. 5 and Ms. Valentine. Luffy is forcibly controlled by the opponent's devil fruit. In order to escape, Usopp took a breath bomb from Mr. 5. Usopp fired the gunpowder type in his hand. And his target was not Baroque and others at all. Instead, Luffy was sitting on the ground, being controlled. The paint trap on Luffy was broken. Finally free to move around. Finally, he used the flames burning on Mr.3's head. Reignite your companions who have become wax figures. Saved Zoro, Vivi, and Nami by accident. The resurrected Nami and Vivi knocked Mr. Valentine to the ground as soon as they met. Mr. 5 was also killed by Zoro's burning demon slash. Mr. 5 can't make a comeback. Luffy and others sounded the clarion call for a counterattack again. After regaining his freedom, Broky realized that it was better to cherish the friendship now than to have a meaningless argument. Although the blue ghost Dongli was seriously injured, he still survived tenaciously. The two sides reconciled and no more fighting occurred. Although Sanji missed a very exciting battle. But he received a call from Sam Crocodile in the cabin. And pretended to be a killer from Baroque Studio to talk to him. From him, I learned that the unfortunate messenger was sending the permanent pointer of the Kingdom of Alabasta to the island. This way they don't have to wait for the pointer to record a full year in the small garden. To go to the next island. Everyone can now go directly to the Kingdom of Alabasta and send Vivi back to his homeland. On Rogue Island, Smoker, who caused great trouble to Straw Hat Luffy and others, used the Black Den Den Mushi to eavesdrop on the conversation between Sanji and Mr. So they changed their route and headed for the Kingdom of Alabasta. What will be staged in the Kingdom of Alabasta is a show by Baroque Studios, Navy Smoker and others, the Straw Hat Pirates, and the Alabasta Royal Guards. The epic struggle that is about to unfold. Since I got the permanent magnetic needle to the Kingdom of Alabasta. So the Straw Hat Pirates are about to embark on their journey. To bid farewell to my good friend. The blue ghost Dongli and the red ghost Bulaji personally cleared the way for them. The two giants appeared like two door gods at the port of the small garden. The reason why the small garden is called the Pirate's Grave actually has an important reason. There is a giant goldfish sea king guarding the little garden port, the island swallower. Any boat that tries to sail out of the garden will be swallowed by the sea king. In order to repay their gratitude, the red ghost and the blue ghost each held their weapons and waited for the island beast to appear. Whatever happens, all you have to do is drive forward. Leave the rest to us. As soon as the Straw Hat Pirates left the port, they spotted the island devourer with its mouth wide open waiting for food to be delivered to it. And out of their complete trust in the giants, there was no change of course at all. Instead, it went straight into the mouth of the island swallowing beast. Please see the most powerful move from the Kingdom of Giants in Elbaf. The blue ghost and the red ghost both performed home run moves, swinging their weapons desperately. A powerful aura burst out from their weapons. Hegemony. The powerful momentum is like a giant spear that directly penetrates the body of the swallowing beast. The Straw Hat Pirates took a boat and passed through the hole in the island devourer's body. Everything is moving in a good direction. But the heavens do not follow our wishes. On their way to Alabasta, Nami, who had been the navigator of the Straw Hat Pirates, suddenly fell ill. He fainted on the ground with a high fever. Chapter 50. Doraemon Dimension. After school, Nobita hurriedly ran back home from outside. Nobita's mother felt very strange, because she had never seen her son come home so punctually. Usually, Nobita would either drag his feet on the road or play with Takeshi Sunio in the open space. Or, he would go to the comic book store to get comic books for free. So subconsciously, Nobita's mother thought that her children were in trouble. When she came to Nobita's room angrily and opened the door, she was surprised to find that Nobita was writing his homework carefully at the desk. Nobita's mother covered her mouth with her hands, feeling very embarrassed. I am so sorry to disturb you while you are studying. Study hard, I am going to cook dinner. Nobita's mother said, and then she gently closed the sliding door of the room. After leaving the room, Nobita's mother was still sighing. The sun really rose from the west today, how come Nobita studied hard? If so, he won't get 0 points in the next exam. Nobita, who was hiding in the room, heard no movement outside the room, and immediately invited Doraemon out of the closet. Doraemon, something bad has happened. Today I encountered a strange thing. When I was dozing off in class, I was suddenly awakened by a cold voice. It must be a ghost, it must be a ghost. Looking at Nobita's panicked look, Doraemon rubbed his sleepy eyes. Although robots do not actually need sleep, in order to simulate human habits, Doraemon's program is set to need enough sleep every day to maintain the good operation of the machine. What happened to Nobita? Why are you so flustered? Are the voices you heard just hallucinations? After all, the final exams are coming up soon, and you are under a lot of pressure. Nobita's eyes were filled with tears, and even the front of his clothes was wet with tears. No, it was a very cold voice. It was like a computer-generated voice. Are there some alien robots targeting me? Doraemon started to circle around Nobita, looking left and right. He didn't have any qualities that were valued by any advanced alien civilization. What was there to study about an Earthling who was not good at sports, studying, and had a dumb brain? Did you hear what he said to you? Doraemon asked the most crucial question. Nobita suddenly stopped crying and tilted his head to think. The voice seemed to say that something had been enhanced and that a certain world was about to be opened. Nobita's memory was very poor, so he didn't even remember the cold voice he heard in his sleep. Doraemon felt speechless, but they found that the originally clear sky was now gloomy. Doraemon had a bad premonition and immediately leaned against the window to look out. A huge screen suddenly appeared in the sky, and chaos immediately broke out all over the world. People in some places were too timid and suddenly lost their concentration while driving, and even had car accidents. Even the downstairs of Nobita's house was in a mess, as if the end of the world was coming. Nobita directly hugged Doraemon's thighs. Doraemon, you'd better think of a solution quickly, the end of the world is coming. Doraemon also knew that the matter was not simple, so he took out the if telephone booth from his four-dimensional pocket. It is a special prop that can turn the language spoken in the telephone booth into the parallel world that the user wants. So Doraemon began to make the screen in the sky disappear in the if telephone booth. What Doraemon didn't expect was that its props had lost their effectiveness. The screen in the sky would not be eliminated anyway, even if Doraemon took out the air cannon from his pocket and bombarded the screen, there was no effect. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more serious, Doraemon could only use the if telephone to change everyone's perception after seeing the screen. Let everyone who sees the screen be able to turn a blind eye to the screen. Just treat the screen in the sky as air. At this time, my mother's voice came from downstairs. Nobita, it's Shizuka calling. When he heard that it was Shizuka calling, courage regained Nobita's hold, and he immediately ran downstairs to answer the phone. Shizuka was obviously scared, and she said tremblingly, a screen appeared on my side, and I can see it even on the ceiling indoors. The strange thing is that my parents can't see it at all. This made Doraemon very puzzled, because he had used the telephone booth to modify everyone's cognition, and his mother and father had turned a blind eye to the screen in the sky, but he found that the classmates around Nobita could still see the video content. Could it be that the one operating this screen possesses technology that is more advanced than future technology? Doraemon got into the drawer time machine without saying anything. He wanted to go back to the future to check some information. Crayon Shin-chan's plane. Shin-chan's family was happily eating dinner at home. They were originally worried because they could not afford the TV fee this month. At this time, the screen that suddenly appeared in the sky provided them with a way to entertain themselves. Wow, I feel like the plot is even more exciting than Kamen Rider. Especially when the guy with the straw hat punched the bad guy with a burning head. Then Shin-chan suddenly stood up and shook his butt. Look, my eraser, my big eraser butt. Shin-chan's mother, Maya, had veins popping out on her head. She punched Shin-chan on the head, and a big red bump appeared on his head. Wow, I was defeated by my mother's rubber fist. Then Zioxin grabbed his chest and pretended to faint on the ground. Mia could only cover her face with her hands. I'm the one who's going to be defeated by you. Nami suddenly had a high fever. They tried all the medicines on the ship but couldn't cure him. Her symptoms don't look like a common cold at all. Although they all possessed special skills, none of them had a medical background. So they are now in urgent need of a ship's doctor to save their navigator. What made them feel even more angry was that Vivi read about the rebellion in the Kingdom of Alabasta in the newspaper that had just been sent to her. The fighting has intensified. Originally, the king's army had 600,000 soldiers and the rebel army had 400,000 soldiers. 300,000 soldiers of the king's army defected to the rebels. The situation that was originally evenly matched suddenly reversed. Nami's disease must be cured, and Vivi is also concerned about her country. In order not to delay Vivi's return to the country for rescue, Nami. I tried my best to pretend nothing happened despite having a high fever. As a princess, Vivi naturally understands the righteousness of the matter. Although she was eager to return home, she was very worried about whether the people of Alabasta would be affected by this rebellion. But she still chose the fastest path. That is to cure Nami's illness first. So they ignored the direction of the Arabistan permanent magnetic needle and began to look for the ship's doctor. They gradually moved towards the direction of Dongdao. They encountered the Iron Bucket pirates, and their captain, Ironhide Walpo, hijacked all the Straw Hat pirates. He was originally the king of the medical powerhouse Drum Island. Although he has the ability to swallow the fruit, it can swallow Straw Hat Luffy's Go Merry bit by bit. Unfortunately, his fighting ability was too weak and he was knocked away by Luffy's punch. In order to save their captain, his pirate group members, they fled and went to distant places for rescue. Continuing along the waterway, they finally saw an island. From a distance, each rolling mountain looks like dozens of huge drums. This is the medical powerhouse Drum Island, where the doctor who can save Nami's life can be found. Chapter 51. Slime Plane. It has been a long time since Mikami Satoru was reincarnated as a slime in another world. With his own efforts, he gradually unified the Jura forest, allowing the goblins, lizardmen, treemen, and shadow wolves living here to live in harmony in this kingdom, solving the problem of magical beasts that affect the safety of surrounding towns. Some time ago, the pigmen also joined his group. They became the main labor force in building a new home. Just when things were developing in a peaceful direction, a huge screen suddenly appeared above the Jura forest. And before that, the great sage had not predicted it at all. Rimuru hurried outside only after Ziwan reminded him. Looking up, he saw the scene of another world transmitted to their eyes through the screen. Great sage, analyze the screen above and check the source of magic. Analyzing in progress, please wait. Error. Error. Something went wrong. Unobservable, unpredictable, indescribable, and undefinable. Keep trying. Error. Error. Something went wrong. Unobservable, unpredictable, indescribable, and undefinable. Keep trying. The great sage tried 1,000,000,000 times in total. However, he was unable to conduct a comprehensive analysis of the screen in the sky, and even the most primitive magic composition could not be analyzed. It was as if his perception would be severely backlashed as soon as it touched the screen. And this huge amount of calculation has exceeded the great sage's current capabilities. For example, the great sage told Rimuru the results of the investigation truthfully, which surprised Rimuru. After all, after he came to the other world, he could only rely on the great sage's golden finger. Now there is an existence with a much higher level than him, which makes Rimuru begin to doubt whether it is the world law of this other world. The punishment that is about to befall him. Rimuru immediately changed into a combat form, and was able to exert all the abilities he had swallowed before. Just when he wanted to order everyone in the Jura forest to enter the first level of alert. 3 hours later, Rimuru found that he had made a mistake. There was no enemy coming to this world through the screen. The fierce battle scene before was just the video content displayed on the screen, which would not affect their so-called world. And Rimuru had proposed the first level of combat readiness before, which became a blank shot. Could it be that this screen has no ill intentions towards us, but just wants to show us some information? Rimuru immediately began to think about it, and planned to call all the high-level magicians in the kingdom to a meeting. He must find out how this screen appeared. So Rimuru held a very lengthy meeting. Fairy Tale Plane. In the Fairy Tale Guild, Natsu and the others had just finished their previous mission. Lucy collapsed on the ground, showing her exhaustion. As soon as they returned to the guild, they saw the president, Markov, calling everyone to a meeting. Natsu was still confused, and the blue cat Happy, who had been flapping his wings beside him, pointed it out to him. A huge screen appeared on the ceiling of the guild. And if they ran outside into the sky, they would also be able to see the screen clearly. Old man, what is going on? President Makarov said with a gloomy face. According to our 3-hour meeting about the screen that suddenly appeared in the sky, we finally came to the conclusion. Everyone looked at their president with a serious face. Makarov crossed his arms, his beard trembling, and closed his eyes as if he was thinking. You should tell me soon. Some members who were impatient were getting impatient, but Makarov seemed to want to keep them waiting by not announcing the final result. What's the hurry? I'll knock him down. Natsu couldn't wait and ran outside. He roared at the screen in the sky like a fire dragon. A huge flame spewed out of his mouth and went straight through the screen. Nothing happened on the screen. Makarov told everyone the final result. That screen is not in our time and space at all, it is just a projection from another time and space. After he finished speaking, the whole audience was in an uproar. The video on the screen continued. The Drum Island originally had the best medical care in the entire Grand Line. There's only one doctor left. And those famous doctors 20 have long disappeared. The doctor's reputation was extremely bad. Called the Witch Kurha. He is a man with superb medical skills but an erratic personality. As soon as Luffy and his crew reached the shore, they were attacked by the residents of Drum Island. They really hate pirates here. I hope they leave this island soon. The leader is Dalton, the former captain of the Drum Island Guard, who possesses the power of the bulbul fruit. However, Nami was now seriously ill and there was no time to find a doctor elsewhere. So, Vivi and Luffy knelt on the ground. Ask for help. Dalton saw that the other party was sincere. So they let them into the island. But whether you can seek the witch's healing depends on fate. The first thing they have to find is the location of the witch. She lives in the castle on top of the highest mountain in the middle. The mountains on Magnetic Drum Island are vertical and difficult to climb. Luffy saved Nami's life. No matter how difficult it is, even if he has to climb mountains of swords and descend into seas of fire, he will go. So he wrapped Nami tightly and tied her on his back. Together with Sanji, we went to the mountaintop castle to seek medical treatment. In order to strengthen his training and prevent himself from being captured alive. So I stayed on the boat and watched the boat with Black Duck. Usopp and Vivi stayed in the village, listening to Dalton telling the history of the country. A few months ago this was a dark and oppressed country. The king is Walpo, who has the ability of the swallow fruit that Luffy and others saw before. At that time, a pirate group named Blackbeard suddenly appeared in the kingdom. The king knew he could not defeat the pirates, so he abandoned his people and fled to the sea. And the tyranny of this country ended with the departure of the king. The reason why Dalton is still here is, I want to help the people rebuild a new country. On their way to the mountaintop castle, Luffy and Sanji encountered a large group of carnivorous rabbits called rabbits that looked like polar bears. But their journey was destined to be fruitless. Because while they were climbing the mountain, Kurha, who was called the witch, had already arrived at the next village on a sled. Healing the son of the tavern. As soon as it appeared, it immediately caught everyone's attention. She is a 140-year-old fashionable grandmother with fashionable clothes and hot body. She is accompanied by a very spiritual blue-nosed reindeer. Upon hearing the news, Vivi and Usopp could no longer sit still. They followed Dalton to the next village to ask the witch to come and heal the disease. When both sides were chasing each other, there was a new situation at the port. Walpo and others who were beaten by Luffy before found the Drum Island. He wants to return to his throne. Let his reign of terror return to this already broken little country. Chapter 52. Jojo Plain. Yasuke was still wandering around the streets after school like he always did. Recently, Morio Town was so quiet that it was scary. It seemed that the terrifying killer who had been hiding in Morio Town had suddenly disappeared. Could it be that Jotaro and others came to Morio Town? It caused great psychological pressure on the other party. So he had to restrain his killing intention. Yasuke was a little confused, but he was just a high school student. What kind of strength did he have to conduct a search? Even the local police couldn't find a clue, and he couldn't always worry about it. After all, he had his own life to live. He accidentally saw the news about Nami's serious illness on the screen above his head. To be honest, Yasuke didn't hate girls like Nami. Nami had a cheerful and resolute personality like a boy, a beautiful face like an angel, and a hot body like a devil. Yasuke touched his airplane head. I feel that if there is such a girl in real life, I might try to have a relationship with her, but it's a pity that Nami in the video is sick. Her companions had to climb such a high mountain to find a doctor. If he was by her side, it would be easy to use his stand crazy diamond to restore her to her original state. Not to mention the high fever caused by bacteria and viruses, even broken arms and legs, he could restore them to their original state. Little did he know that in a distant country, there was a stand user who awakened like him. In the tender atmosphere of Italy, a young man aspired to become a Yanko star. The stand gold experience he possessed could give life to non-living things and bring them back to life. If Giorno was by Nami's side, he could have healed her quickly. It's a pity that there is no similar ability in the One Piece world. It will have to wait until the ability of the Operation Fruit much later to reach the same level. Detective Dimension. To drive. Agaza, the previous plots were just children fighting and quarreling. The plots were like battle scenes in some hot-blooded comics, and he was not particularly interested. But when Straw Hat Luffy and his crew came to the small garden, where ancient plants and animals were preserved. Drive. Agaza was very interested because he had seen a similar plot in a famous book, The Lost World. I remember a clip in the film about many American explorers who went to explore the Lost World. They all had inexplicable fevers there, and eventually died of serious illness. Many people thought it was a curse from that world, but it was not. Because in an environment where ancient animals and plants are preserved, it is very easy for ancient viruses and bacteria to breed. Modern people lack antibodies to these, so many people who enter unfamiliar environments will have symptoms of a malignant flu. If they carry antibiotics with them, their chances of survival may increase. Drive. Agaza muttered to himself as he fiddled with the anesthetic needle watch in front of him, the same model as Conan's. He always thought that Conan's watch was far from enough to just fire anesthetic needles. It was very likely that due to functional limitations, this anesthetic needle watch would gradually fail to keep up with Conan's increasing needs, so he began to gradually design some devices with drugs that could help them deal with some emergencies. In this way, the watch dial can fire anesthetic needles on one side and emergency drug injections on the other side, and the practicality of this watch will be higher. So the video above Drive. Agaza's head brought more inspiration to his invention. At this time, Huiwen Ai yawned and passed by him. Doctor, if the girl is infected with a virus, antibiotics will be useless. This sentence reminded Drive. Ali, and he began to think about how to add more types of medicines to the watch, including antibiotics, emergency serum, and hormone drugs. These are the key to saving Conan's life in special circumstances. The rabbits named Labang saw that there was no way they could catch Sanji and Luffy in a short time. They began to jump on the spot. And the number of rabbit Labang is increasing. Even formed a huge group. Luffy still doesn't understand why these rabbits are no longer chasing him, but jumping in place. Sanji understood their intentions. The IQ of these Labangs is quite high. He actually wanted to use the noise created by his huge body to cause an avalanche. The originally silent snow-capped mountains now sounded like thousands of horses roaring. The rumbling sound came straight down from above. The white snow now turned into a silver river. Rolling down from this mountain. The avalanche still happened. Luffy carried Nami on his shoulders and held Sanji's hand. But the avalanche was so fast. Instantly drowning everyone. Including Valpo, who had just come down the mountain to take back his throne. In the face of nature, individual power is insignificant. The Labang rabbits that created the avalanche have now been trapped in the snow. A little Labang rabbit was digging in the snow. I want to dig my father out. At this moment, a thin-looking figure staggered over. He was seen carrying Nami on one side and Sanji on the other. He staggered out from deep in the snow. Then he stretched out a hand and pulled out the Labang rabbit buried in the snow. This spirit of repaying evil with kindness. Even these wild animals without much intelligence were moved by it. Although Walpole was a cruel tyrant. But he still has some skills. Before the avalanche hits. Use the swallow fruit's ability to swallow all of his subordinates into his stomach and protect them. After waiting for the avalanche to end, he jumped out of the snow and released his men. As they rushed up the mountain, they saw the staggering Straw Hat Luffy. Now is the best time to eliminate him. Luffy wanted to protect the safety of Nami and Sanji. I can't fight them at all. Soon he fell into a disadvantageous position. Just when Nami, who was carried on Luffy's shoulders, was about to be hurt by these despicable people. Suddenly, a huge claw slapped Valpo's men away. It turned out to be the Labang rabbit that Luffy saved from the avalanche. This group of Labang rabbits will repay their gratitude and will become the most solid wall to protect Luffy. They blocked the way of Walpo and the others, and made Luffy go towards the top of the mountain. Luffy didn't have time to thank them, and he carried the two people and climbed up the almost vertical rock wall. In order to free up his hands. biting Sanji's collar with his teeth. Regardless of his bloody hands and feet. Climb up to the top of the mountain resolutely. Finally we arrived at the castle gate. He couldn't hold on any longer and passed out. Just before Luffy was about to fall from the top of the mountain, a strong hand pulled his falling body back into the castle. Chapter 53. Demon Slayer. Among the three little ones resting in the butterfly house, only Zenitsu behaved the most Buddhist, although at first he yelled and cried when he saw the screen suddenly appear above his head. He thought that it was a messenger sent by God to punish them, and Zenitsu even recited Buddhist scriptures in the yard. But after waiting and waiting, he found that everything played on the screen would not have any impact on their real life, so Zenitsu was relieved. He even dared to move a small bamboo stool and sit in the yard to watch the content on the screen above his head. Zenitsu's expression was very tangled at the moment. When he first saw the picture about Nami, he fantasized about marrying her, but soon Zenitsu dismissed this idea because he felt that this idea was unfaithful to Nezuko, and he was devoted to Nezuko. Zenitsu was repeatedly torn between liking Nami or Nezuko. Until Tanjiro also moved a small bamboo stool and sat next to Zenitsu. In fact, I think as long as you do good deeds and accumulate virtue, you will definitely get good rewards. Whether you are a human or a ghost, as long as you have good intentions, you will definitely get good results. Those ghosts who kill and eat people will not have a good end after all. They will either be swallowed by other ghosts or beheaded by the Demon Slayer Corps. Ghosts like Tamayo have been able to gradually integrate into human society. I believe that people like him will definitely have a good result. Then Tanjiro saw Luffy rescue the rabbit Labang buried in the snow from an avalanche. Then Labang stopped Walpo and others in order to give Luffy more time to go to the top of the mountain for medical treatment. This is what he called good deeds will be rewarded. But Zenitsu's face was very ugly, because he remembered his senior brother who became a ghost, and his master who committed suicide by disembowelment. Is there really such a thing as good deeds being rewarded in this world? Zenitsu and Tanjiro looked at each other and then fell silent. And now in Killha's castle, Nami, Sanji, and Luffy all received very effective treatment. The person in charge of taking care of them is a small reindeer man with a blue nose and a top hat, Tony Chopper. He ate the human fruit. Become a half-human, half-animal moose. He was expelled from his own reindeer herd because of his blue nose. But since I can't completely transform into a human form, therefore, it is not accepted by human society. This little reindeer lives a wandering life. Fortunately, the reindeer is now adopted by Killha. Moreover, this witch Dr. Killha has passed all her medical skills to this little reindeer. Nami was very good at judging people. She knew that it was not realistic to ask Killha to join the pirate group. As a second choice, it is also a very good idea to win over the students she trained. Nami used her eloquence to try to persuade the little reindeer to join her pirate group. Become the Straw Hat Pirates' ship doctor. Luffy and Sanji, who had just recovered from their illness and were extremely hungry, used the little reindeer as food. They chased him in the castle. While they were playing and quarreling, Walpo finally returned to the castle that originally belonged to him. It turns out that the owner of this castle is Walpo, the former ruler of Magnetic Drum Island. At the top of the castle is a skull flag with cherry blossoms flying. The origin of this flag has something to do with another man, Shilluk, who first took in Tony Chopper. He was originally a quack doctor. He often killed many people because of his poor medical skills. But he still did not give up his pursuit of medicine. He thought the country was sick, and he wanted to save it in his own way. By chance, he discovered Chopper, who was abandoned by both humans and deer. Unfortunately, Hiraluk was not accepted by Chopper who had just been hurt. Chopper, who is covered in wounds, doesn't trust anyone. Indiscriminate attack on Shilluk. Doctors are kind-hearted. Hiraluk couldn't bear to see Chopper seriously injured in the snow. In order to gain Chopper's trust, Hiraluk took off all his clothes in the middle of winter. In this way, he showed that he would never hurt the other person. On that snowy day, a reindeer's heart was warmed by a seemingly unreliable human. After gaining Chopper's trust, Hiraluk took him back. A man and a deer lived together from then on. Shiruluk taught Chopper some medical knowledge. Chopper also felt the warmth from home for the first time. At that time, the kingdom of Magdrum was still under the cruel rule of Walpo. Everyone is living in extreme pain. Shilluk wants to save the country again. The solution he came up with was to let people see the cherry blossoms. Beautiful cherry blossoms bloom all over the mountains on this winter island where snow falls all year round. He wants to use this method to heal the broken hearts of people. He made a flag to motivate himself. It is the skull flag with cherry blossoms flying. This is his belief. But a year later, Hiluluk drove Chopper out. It's not because of it, but because he is suffering from a terminal illness and has not much time left. In order to save Hiluluk's life, Chopper, following the signs in the medical book, he searched for a unique mushroom that he called a panacea. After going through numerous hardships, Chopper finally brought the mushroom to Hiluluk. But what Chopper didn't know was that this mushroom was not actually a good medicine for curing diseases. But it is a poisonous mushroom that can kill people. At this moment, Valpo wanted to monopolize medical resources so that no one could find doctors anywhere except around him. He wants to execute all the medical workers in this country. So they made up a lie, Dr. 20 was sick, to trick Shilluk into entering the palace and killing him. At this moment, Ziluluk had already made the mushroom into a decoction and drank it. Then he resolutely entered the palace. Before setting off, he handed the cherry blossom dust he had prepared to his old rival, so-called Kulha, and asked her to continue to take care of Chopper. Regardless of the other party's opposition, Shiruluk hurried to the palace. And only death awaits him. In the end, Chopper took over the legacy of Hiruluk. When Walper abandoned his country, he placed the skull flag with cherry blossoms embroidered on it on the top of the castle. Chopper aspires to become the best doctor in the world, a doctor who can cure all diseases. But the Shiluluk who once healed the wounds in his heart disappeared forever. It can never be cured. Chapter 54. Jojo Plain. Chiao, who already has some dementia, sits alone on the beach, wrapped tightly to prevent himself from catching a cold. He looks at the sea in the distance with empty eyes. After watching the screen above his head, his heart is surging. Although his body has aged and his mind is not as bright as before, the scenes are like the memories of the past that suddenly resurrected and attacked him. He is a century-old man who has witnessed too much history. From the beginning of fighting against vampires, comprehending ripple energy, to awakening his stand and going deep into the desert, following his original companions to form the Star Expeditionary Force. Then to the present Morio town, he has unfinished business. He witnessed the deduction of history and remembered his relatives and friends. When he first fought against vampires to save the world, Caesar fought side by side with him. That enthusiastic and positive young man full of fighting desire. A close comrade in arms who shares honor and disgrace with him and never gives up. Unfortunately, in the end, he was overwhelmed by anger and hatred, and he was alone and unfortunately fell into a trap set by the enemy. In the end, Caesar gave himself the last wave of waves. Only then did he have the possibility of defeating the Pillar Man. At the beginning, in order to save his daughter, he resolutely embarked on the road to Cairo. His companions beside him, Kokyuan, Abdel, and Ichi, dogs count. These good brothers who went through life and death eventually lost their precious lives on the way to defeat Dio. He finally survived, but what did he get? The enemy has always existed, and the world is still dangerous. He seems to have done a lot in his life, but it seems that he has accomplished nothing. Alzheimer's disease makes him forget everything. It is the greatest mercy of God to him. Just like Hiluluk, who dedicated his life to Drum Island, although his own medical skills have always been problematic, they have never been thinking about themselves and fighting to save the hearts of their country. But what is the final outcome? He exploded and died, leaving Chopper alone and sad. But if you ask them, is it all worth it? If they were given another chance to choose, they would still resolutely choose the previous path. Alien Plane. At this time, Wang was trapped on the island by Chen Jingkui. He held his head with his hands, lying on the beach, listening to the sound of the sea hitting the coast, and watching the seagulls flying over his head. He had asked himself countless times, is it all worth it? At the beginning, he chose to leave Wudang and go to Longhe Mountain to participate in the Lushan Dejiao. He did not hesitate to expose his secret at the martial arts performance. He possessed Feng Kaokuman, one of the 8 strange skills. Since then, he has brought himself a fatal disaster. Not only was he followed and spied on, the Shuzaman even asked him to hand over the secrets of Feng Kaokuman and pestered him. It's not that he didn't want to hand it over. If possible, he wanted to announce Feng Kaokuman directly so that he could have a quiet life, but he couldn't hand it over. Once he handed it over, he didn't know that there would be more crazy people in the world. Not everyone can fully master Feng Kaokuman, and not everyone can be this king. And he is participating in Lushan Dejiao at this moment to maintain the prestige of the old Tianxi of Longhu Mountain. If he is not allowed to personally interfere with the final result of the conference, he will be accused of bullying the weak and operating behind the scenes. It is worth it for Wang Ye to cause some trouble himself. At worst, he can go back to his hometown and inherit billions of assets. Little reindeer, you still have to get over it yourself, you have to let it go. Looking at Chopper, who was heartbroken by the death of Hiraluk, Wang Ye muttered. Walpo, who possesses the ability of the swallow fruit, boasts to the world. But whether it was him or his men, he couldn't resist the combined attack of Straw Hat Luffy and Sanji. He was soon beaten down. As a last resort, Valpo finally used his ultimate move, swallowing Valpo House. His entire body has become the shape of the weapon that was once swallowed. His hands turned into cannons, his body turned into a house covered in steel. Both the offensive and defensive capabilities have been greatly improved. He looked at the skull flag with cherry blossoms flying on the top of his original castle. It's really disgusting. So one shot broke its flagpole. Luffy was quick-witted and rushed to the top of the castle and tied the pirate flag back. Luffy said loudly. This isn't a decoration you can put in whenever you want. It is a symbol of faith. For the pirates. The pirates' flags are as important as their lives. But Valpo didn't understand. He was still bombarding the roof with his arm cannon. But Luffy still held the flagpole tightly. Let the shells pour down on my body. I don't know whose pirate flag this is. No matter what, this flag cannot be broken easily. Luffy defends the last ray of light in Chopper's heart with his body and spirit. Since Sanji was seriously injured and had not recovered, so the only one who can fight against Valpo and his men head-on is Chopper. Even though it's just a reindeer. But his unyielding spirit and multiple physical changes were noticed by Luffy. Luffy had long regarded this reindeer as his companion. He had to defeat these people no matter what and let Chopper board his pirate ship. And Chopper took out his Rumba Ball. Enhanced own ability. In just a moment, he defeated his opponent, Valpo's men. The lone Valpo sneaked into the armory. I want to devour all the weapons there. Let yourself get the ultimate evolution. But Luffy would not follow his wishes and punched him directly onto the roof. Make it unable to move. Ironically, the Sakura skull flag he wanted to destroy with his cannonball was facing him. Finally, Luffy used a rubber rocket launcher to send Valpo flying into the sky. The enemy was destroyed, and the entire Drum Kingdom returned to its former peace. Luffy persuaded Chopper to become the ship's doctor for the Straw Hat Pirates. Chopper's mentor, Drive Kulha, who is known as the Witch, also gave her beloved apprentice the best farewell gift. That is the result of Shiruluk's 30 years of research. She placed a packet of pink powder in the cannon. Pour the powder into the clouds. Shiluk finally realized his dream of spreading cherry blossoms in this country with snow all year round. Look, it's pink snow. Wow, it's so beautiful, just like cherry blossoms. Everyone was touched by this healing scene. They all expressed their admiration. Chopper knew that all this was the best medicine prepared by Kulha and his deceased father, Hiraluk, to heal his psychological trauma. Kulha stood on the top of the mountain and looked at Luffy and his group who were gradually going away. Her eyes were red and tears were streaming down her face. Go ahead, silly son. This is the best farewell to Chopper. Magnetic Drum Island also returned to its former peace. Dalton became the new king as expected. Chapter 55. Doraemon's Dimension. Since the screen appeared in the sky, Doraemon returned to the future world to check the information to see why the strange situation of the sky screen appeared, because according to their time and space history, it can be known that there is no such screen in the future society. Could it be that someone privately moved the timeline and changed the future? Nobita knew nothing about this, but he still had to go to school on time every day, because his parents did not recognize the screen that appeared in the sky. So no matter how Nobita explained to his parents, the world was about to end and there was no point in going to school, but Nobita's mother still pulled his ears and took him to school, asking him to go to school honestly. This situation also happened to Fat Tiger, Sunio, and Shizuka. They were also panicked at first, thinking that aliens must have come to the Earth to invade them, but in fact the screen was just playing videos in the sky and did not do anything to harm them, so they had to listen to their parents and go to class and live their lives. Because Doraemon had used the telephone booth to modify everyone's cognition before, except for a few friends around Nobita, everyone else turned a blind eye to the screen, just like when the teacher was giving a lecture in front. He would not even glance at the screen on the ceiling above his head, but Nobita and others were staring at it intently. The video content played on the screen above the blackboard was very passionate. The culprit who brutally killed Hiroluk, Walpo, was stuck on the roof in a mess and was directly shot out by Straw Hat Luffy with a rubber rocket. This scene made Nobita and others feel happy. After all, good people will be rewarded, and evil people will be punished. This is the life creed they have always adhered to. The teacher was very satisfied with Nobita and others' attitude in class. After all, it was midsummer now, and everyone was drowsy due to the hot weather. Some people even couldn't resist sleepiness and lay on the table. But Nobita, who usually likes to sleep in class, stared at the screen with his big eyes. From the teacher's perspective, Nobita was listening to the class seriously. This was a great feat in his teaching career. He thought he had finally influenced this bad student through his actions. Luffy is so handsome, I must become the man of the Pirate King like him. Nobita, who is usually timid and cowardly, started his brave life under the inspiration of Luffy's example. In addition to the very strict and professional textbook courses, Eden College also pays great attention to the physical training of its students, so they took the physical fitness test given by the physical education teacher in groups of 3 or 2 on the playground. Anya changed into sportswear at this time, looking heroic and dashing. She swore in her heart, I must perform well in class so that I can get stars to help my father complete the task. At this time, Donovan Desmond's second son, the target of the dusk, appeared beside Anya with his 2 little followers. Anya immediately remembered that he had a plan. The plan was to get along well with the second son so that he would invite her to his home and help his father complete the task. So, Anya smiled kindly and went to greet Donovan. However, Anya's smile looked very strange. From Donovan's perspective, it was like she was laughing at herself. Is this person ill? This is the question Donovan thinks about the most. The physical fitness test begins. Today they are going to learn a new project, which is fighting skills. Because the students of Eden College need to develop in an all-round way, and because many of them have powerful families, they are likely to be in danger of their lives. Therefore, Eden College has specially arranged a fighting course for them to help them strengthen their own strength and prevent accidents. I secretly hid some lime powder in my sleeves, and I will definitely win the fighting competition. Anya has the ability to read minds, and she quickly read the inner monologue of a student with a pointed face and monkey cheeks next to her, and his fighting class opponent is Damien. In order to improve Damien's favor, Anya directly stepped forward and stretched out her arm to push Damien. Look at me, rubber rocket. When the sharp-nosed and monkey-faced student wanted to throw lime powder, Damien had been pushed away by Anya. However, because the student's action was very secretive, it was not discovered by others, but Anya's behavior of pushing people was seen by everyone. Anya, how can you bully your classmates? At this time, the physical education teacher left and came over to criticize him severely. Anya was speechless at this time, because she could not say that she was a superpower and could read other people's thoughts, so she could only look at Damien and then at the sharp-nosed and monkey-faced student, trying to defend herself, but the teacher did not give her a chance and directly drove Anya out of the playground. Anya cried so hard that even the front of her school uniform was wet with tears. After Straw Hat Luffy and others left, the reward for them was handed over to Dalton, who became the new king. The villagers told us that a traveler suddenly appeared on the street a week ago. He claimed he was chasing the pirate Blackbeard. He also specifically asked the Icelanders if they had seen a pirate wearing a straw hat, and asked the villagers to give him a message. Please tell him that I will wait for him in Alabasta Kingdom for 10 days. If he asks, just say my name is Ace and he'll know. After saying that, the man ate the free meal and ran away. Luffy and his crew welcomed Chopper to join their Straw Hat family. A banquet was specially held, and everyone drank and talked happily. The party lasted from night till dawn. Although Chopper was a little shy at first, he gradually integrated into their warm atmosphere. Chopper not only sighed. Today is the first time in all these years that I am so happy. From Vivi, I learned that in the kingdom of Alabasta, Crocodile is still very famous. He always presents himself in a positive light. Not only did he clear out the pirates who came to cause trouble for the people. Moreover, they often gave alms, distributing food and property to the people. This is all Crocodile's conspiracy. Use these small favors to beautify your image. At the same time, he secretly established the Baroque studio. Eliminate dissidents for him. Secretly eroding the power of the king's army. The Alabasta kingdom they are about to visit is the base of Crocodile. There are many experts there, all of them are very powerful. Not someone you can easily provoke. Because Luffy and his friends had eaten all the food for 8 days at the previous banquet. So they had to fish on the boat to get enough food. But Luffy and his friends' fishing skills are too poor. No fish were caught at all. Instead, a demon was fished out of the sea. He was wearing a swan costume and his tone of voice was neither positive nor negative. He calls himself Von Clay, a she-male. He is a familiar person. Soon, he became friends with the Straw Hat guys. Not only does he know the human demon boxing, but he is also a user of the mimicry fruit ability. Not only do they look exactly the same, they have the same voice and body shape. Just touch the other person's face with your right hand and you can become whoever you want. So he started to show everyone his face-changing skills. Among the many faces he took. Among them is the image of the king of Alabasta. At this time, a swan pirate ship suddenly came from a distance. At this time, Feng Clay had to bid farewell to the Straw Hat pirates in tears. Their friendship took root at this time. Until Feng Clay walked away. He just introduced himself as Mr. Tu from Baroque Studio. Princess Vivi, however, had a very ominous premonition. After all, his father's face had been copied by Feng Clay. Maybe he will plot something in his own country. Without further ado, let's get going. To prevent the imitator from sneaking into the group. So they've already marked it. Put a bandage on each person's left arm. This is the proof of partnership. Chapter 56. Everyone went through untold hardships. Finally arrived in the kingdom of Alabasta. But there appeared a pirate who ate a free meal. He has a huge cross and skull tattooed on his back. That is the pirate flag of the Whitebeard Pirates, one of the 4 emperors on the Grand Line. At this moment, Captain Smoker, the navy that followed the Straw Hat Pirates all the way. He led his navy to the kingdom of Alabasta. I just happened to run into that pirate who ate a free meal. A great battle is about to begin between the two sides. Luffy suddenly ran in from outside. Just happened to knock Smoog away. Luffy started to sweep the food on the table into his mouth without thinking. Make your body round. The pirate wearing the cowboy hat was about to escape when he suddenly spotted another pirate who had entered the restaurant and was eating like crazy. It was exactly the Straw Hat Pirate Luffy that I was looking for. Smoker, who had recovered, led a large number of Navy officers to chase after Luffy. But I didn't expect that I would be blocked by a wall of fire. When the wall of fire dissipated, a human figure appeared in the flames. That person is the captain of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates who ate the flame fruit, Ace the Fire Fist. After both sides escaped from Smoker's pursuit, Ace came to Luffy's ship. The Straw Hat Pirates were horrified to learn that Ace's true identity was not only the captain of the 2nd Squad of the Whitebeard Pirates, but also the captain of the 2nd Squad of the Whitebeard Pirates. He is also Luffy's elder brother. I am sorry to cause you trouble as your brother. Luffy, take this. Ace handed a small note to Luffy. That's his life card. Through this card, you can know the owner's location and the other party's life status. The two agreed that the next time they met, they would meet at the highest peak of the pirates. Fire Fist Ace got on his speedboat and set off immediately. At this time, Straw Hat Boy Luffy's ship has been surrounded by the pursuers of Baroque Studio. 5 huge warships surrounded the Going Merry, making it impossible for anyone to get through. Straw Hat Boy, you can't escape today. We'll throw you into the water, you landlubber. At this time, Ace stepped forward and blocked the crowd for his brother. Hey, little guys, shut up. Ace jumped directly into the air, and a fire fist shot out from Ace. The huge fist of fire instantly pierced through the 5 ships. A total of 500 people and 5 huge warships were instantly reduced to ashes. Only the debris of the ship floating on the sea remains. Consider this my farewell gift to you. See you next time at the pinnacle of pirates. Ace leaves gracefully. Hunter Plane. Killua returned to the Zaldik family and began a crazy training mode. He always felt that it was because of himself that Gon had to sacrifice his future to gain strength for a short period of time. If he was strong enough at that time, if he could convince his family at that time and fully participate in the battle against the Chimera Ants, would the result be different? Everything is destined. The good news is that Gon has regarded himself as a brother, a partner, and a friend. Killua feels that compared with these brothers in his family, Gon and he have more similar temperaments. The relationship between the two is like the relationship between Luffy and Ace. Although they are not related by blood, they have sworn brotherhood together and have become relatives who share weal and woe and are closer than brothers. Should I find a time to become sworn brothers with Gon? After Killua had this thought, he quickly dismissed it because he felt that the relationship between the two was already unbreakable. Killua had offended his family and used his sister to take Nika. Their whole family paid a huge price for this. They saved Gon from a half-dead state. There was no need to use some form of thing to materialize the friendship between the two, otherwise, it would be a manifestation of distrust of Gon. Let's go to the island to see Zyuja. Thinking of this, Killua packed his luggage and slowly walked to the gate of the Zaldik family. No one dared to stop Killua on the whole way, because they knew that Killua had become a real person at this moment, with an independent personality. They could not keep him in the family with a few words or violence. Killua's brothers, parents, and bodyguards watched Killua leave, because they knew that Killua was carrying something heavier than the family mission at this time. Fairy Tale Plain. A shirtless beautiful boy in the depths of the forest is constantly practicing his magic skills, because he feels that his magic skills have gradually become rusty when he is performing tasks recently, as if his practice has fallen into a bottleneck, and everything around him is wrapped in huge ice. He is the magician of ice modeling magic, Grey Fulpasta. He is different from the hot-blooded fool. First of all, excluding Natsu, he is relatively calm and always likes to look at problems from another angle. He believes that there must be a reason for the screen in the sky, but this is not something he should worry about. Nowadays, all guilds are facing a state of gradual involution. If he, as a magician, cannot improve his strength, he is likely to be surpassed by other guilds and defeated by those endless enemies. As a leading figure in the Fairy Tale Guild, it is necessary to improve his own strength. After Grey exhausted his magic power, he sat on the stump and looked up at the screen in the sky. It just happened to play the pure brotherhood between Luffy and Ace, which reminded Grey of his senior brother Leo. Although he once wanted to kill himself, he has now come to his senses and is no longer obsessed with the death of his master. Now Leo has joined the scales of the Snake Princess and has become his competitor, so he doesn't want to be left behind by his senior brother. Grey himself prefers to create static ice magic. And his senior brother Leo can create moving ice magic objects. Although there are only these minor differences, ice magic that can fight independently is still very powerful. You are still training alone in silence. This was a voice that suddenly sounded from behind Grey. Grey suddenly turned his head and saw that the senior brother he had just missed appeared behind him. And Leo was followed by two companions. At this time, Grey suddenly found something flying in front of him, and he subconsciously reached out to catch it. It was a potion that could restore magic power. Training alone will only improve you at a limited rate. Come, let me see if my lovely junior brother has regressed. As soon as Leo finished speaking, a magic circle appeared in his hands. He usually uses one hand, and using both hands to release magic shows that he is serious. A light green gorilla suddenly appeared beside him. The gorilla created by ice magic rushed towards Grey. Grey smiled and quickly poured the potion into his stomach. Then, he used the ice-shaped magic lancer. Several spears made of ice pierced the gorilla's body, and the ice on both sides shattered instantly, and this move resulted in a draw. Both of them had smiles on their faces, and this was the brotherhood that was beyond words. Chapter 57. Luffy sewed the life card given by Ace into his straw hat. Because to him, his brother's life card and the straw hat entrusted to him by Red Hair Shanks are equally important. Princess Vivi wants to quell the civil war in the Kingdom of Alabasta. He decided to go to the rebel base camp in person to persuade their leader. After all, the rebel leader and I were childhood friends and we had a very good relationship. As long as bloodshed can be avoided, Vivi can do anything. The Baroque studio plotted a big conspiracy. This conspiracy will sweep across the entire Alabasta kingdom. All residents of the Kingdom of Alabasta will become victims of Crocodile's politics. And his ultimate goal is to hide in the secret room of Alabasta. A historical inscription guarded by kings from generation to generation. What Crocodile was most interested in was hidden in this historical inscription is information about one of the three great ancient weapons, Pluto. Luffy and his companions headed all the way to Yoba, where the rebel army's headquarters was located. On the way, I saw many cities that were gradually dying due to drought. The reason why these cities were destroyed was because of Shaq Crocodile's instigation. He used the dancing powder scum to keep the rain around the capital plentiful. But other towns downwind suffer from drought all year round. The people who were on the verge of starvation because their fields did not produce crops blamed the king of Alabasta for everything. Over time, they were used by Shah Crocodile to form a revolutionary army. Provoked a civil war in the kingdom of Alabasta. Luffy and the others were furious when they learned the details of the incident. Swear to destroy Crocodile and his Baroque studio. Demon Slayer. This crocodile is really too much. How could he kill so many innocent people just to satisfy his own selfish interests? Buzukawa Shima slashed at the stone in front of him, and the sharp blade actually cut directly into the stone, which was enough to show his great strength and sharp skills. He was originally a man with a strong sense of justice. He embarked on the road of killing demons because he wanted to completely eliminate the demons that killed ordinary civilians from this world. In order to kill demons more effectively, he joined the Demon Slayer Corps. Although his younger brother has the talent to kill demons, in order to protect his only younger brother Swanya, Busui Kawai has been deliberately ignoring him, hoping that he will be frustrated and leave the Demon Slayer Corps. This leaves the possibility of continuation for their Busui Kawai lineage. But at this moment, because he saw another world through the screen above his head. There are evil people like Sand Crocodile. The existence of such people makes him feel that he should not only eliminate demons, but also those monsters that eat human flesh and drink human blood. Standing aside, Biming Yu Xingming had tears in his eyes. Although he couldn't see, he could know what kind of video was playing on the screen through the retelling of others. The people of the kingdom of Alabasta could have lived a better life. There were no ghosts in their world. People should have lived in peace and happiness, but they didn't expect that there were people more terrifying than ghosts in this world. Sad, how sad. A small white snake spit out its tongue and looked around at the undying river and Xianming who were speaking up for the people of Alabasta. It couldn't understand the thoughts of humans in its little brain. But it could feel its master's body trembling slightly, but something that even people like Aguro Obane would be angry about must be a major event that would anger God and people. Those children in Alabasta can't even drink a mouthful of pure water, it's really pitiful. The love pillar Kanroji Mitsurai, who was standing aside, covered her mouth and looked at the screen above her head in disbelief. The main reason they gathered here was to hold a meeting between the pillars to discuss the latest news they had just received. The bamboo door in front of them slowly opened, and the Lord sat there and smiled at the pillars kneeling on the ground. My children, I have something very serious to tell you. We have learned about Muzan Kibutsuji's movements, but according to our reliable information, Muzan Kibutsuji has learned a very powerful blood demon technique through the screen above our heads. According to the intelligence, this special blood demon technique can allow demons to move freely for a short period of time during the day. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the room was shocked. How could such a thing happen? Sunlight has always been our most powerful weapon against demons. If demons can move during the day, then the end of mankind is coming. Shinobu Koko, who was standing aside, blurted out, because she was engaged in related research work and had been studying specific poisons to kill demons more efficiently. Some of the research was similar to that of Muzan Kibutsuji. So he knew how difficult it was to keep demons alive in the sunlight. The Lord waved his hand gently, motioning for everyone to be quiet. Then he stretched out a hand and pointed at the screen above his head. The screen above our heads should be a sign from God, guiding the direction of growth for some people. It is good for us, but it is also good for ghosts. So we should put in 120,000 points of energy and speed up the fight against ghosts. Otherwise, one day ghosts will replace us as the masters of this world, and then it will be hell on earth. After the Lord finished speaking, he coughed lightly, and his servant immediately brought a handkerchief. The Lord gently wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Go, children, and save the future of mankind. The bamboo door slowly closed, and everyone present nodded. Holy Lord Plain. Dad didn't know that he was actually deceived by Daolong. The magic he cast could not make his magic level rise to the next level, but instead made the screen in the sky open up more parallel time and space planes. Dad couldn't help pinching his nose bridge, and his eyebrows were squeezed into a shape. I never thought that I, my father, would be deceived. It's such a shame. Fortunately, Daolong, who was imprisoned in a special prison, obtained a lot of materials from his father, but those things could not help him escape from prison. At this time, Daolong was still imprisoned in it obediently. Sheriff Blake has been very busy recently. Recently, he has found that the strange phenomena in many places have become more and more obvious. The screen above his head played the conspiracy implemented by Shah Clark Dar in the Kingdom of Alabasta, and those conspiracies seemed to be about to be staged in their world. A large number of personnel from District 13 have been sent abroad, and the staff of the headquarters is already stretched to the limit, but the precious magic weapons hidden here also need to be guarded by personnel. Blake pinched his chin. The Alabasta Kingdom's conspiracy is actually very simple, which is to provoke confrontation, create chaos, and then take advantage of the emptiness of the palace to carry out a decapitation operation. Crocodile obtains important information from the king. Then, all those who know the truth will be eliminated. Chen Long, who was standing next to Sheriff Black, summarized this strategy in 4 words. Fishing in troubled waters. This is one of the 36 strategies summarized by the mysterious Eastern power, and the chaos faced by Sheriff Black and others is likely part of the enemy's strategy. So what does the hidden enemy need? Is it the 12 zodiac charms hidden in the secret room? Sheriff Black fell into deep thought. Chapter 58. Everyone went through a lot of hardships along the way. Finally we came to Yoba. It's just that the place was hit by sandstorms all year round. It was originally an oasis. Now they are all buried by the wind and sand. The originally prosperous and bustling town. Only a skinny old man was left there digging. And he is the father of the rebel leader, Duo Duo. He has a very good personal relationship with the king of Alabasta. His son Kosa is Princess Vivi's childhood sweetheart. This is also the main reason why Princess Vivi must go to the rebel base to persuade the rebel leader Kosa to stop the war. But the rebels have reached their limit at this moment. They decided to fight it out in the next attack. Both sides will bet everything on this. There will be a lot of casualties. At this moment, Baroque Studio is still fanning the flames. Provide weapons and necessary supplies to the armies of both sides. Let them maintain a state of equal strength for a long time, consuming each other's strength. In the end, both sides suffered losses. This is how Crocodile achieves his goal. They named this action Utopia. He wants to be the king of Alabasta. So he distributed instructions to his senior officials. Let them do their job and make the situation as chaotic as possible. Just as they were making plans with great enthusiasm. Mr3, who had escaped death, brought back a terrible news. That is, the Straw Hat pirates who were supposed to be killed by him are still alive. And they have arrived in the kingdom of Alabasta. The angry Shah Kradar sucked most of the water out of Mr3's body. Then he threw it into the crocodile pond to raise his pet. So the Straw Hat Luffy and his crew became his biggest worry. After all, in this perfect plan, he is the only variable. Luffy and his companions originally planned to go to the rebels' new base camp, Rapeseed Port. Princess Vivi persuaded the rebel leader Kosa. But Luffy has different ideas. Because the culprit of all this is Shah Crookie Doll. If he is not destroyed, the kingdom of Alastan will never have peace. So they began to change their itinerary and headed to the prosperous city of Rainland where Crocodile was. At this moment, the rebels' goal is to directly capture the capital, Aruba. The whole army marched towards the capital. The king of Alabasta, Cobra, has seen through all the conspiracies and realized that they were all caused by Crocodile. So he planned to lead his king's army to the rainy land where Crocodile was. And now there are only 17 hours left until Shah Klakdar's conspiracy. Naruto's office is full of Jonin. It seems that something very important has happened. It seems that the screen in the sky has changed the action plan of those forces that were originally hidden in the dark. They should have kept their heads down but now they are making trouble. The leader of the Jonin in Naruto's office is Mr. Shikamaru Nara, the chief of staff of Konoha Ninja Village. He holds a thick stack of reports in his hand and reports one disaster after another to Naruto. According to reliable information, the forbidden scrolls originally hidden in the secret room of the Konoha Ninja were stolen, and the secret techniques including the impure world reincarnation were secretly taken away for experiments. Is Orochimaru causing trouble again? No, as soon as the incident happened, we surrounded Orochimaru's laboratory and found that he was researching cloning technology and genetic modification technology, and he did not develop forbidden techniques. Moreover, the movements of the members of his laboratory were monitored 24 hours a day, so it was impossible that their people did it. The Anbu in charge of the intelligence department also made a report of reliable information and placed it on the desk in front of Naruto. Naruto couldn't help but sigh. It seems that the peaceful days have been too long. Once there is a little disturbance, people will panic. The peacetime was originally a period of great development, but it was unexpectedly used by people with ulterior motives to combine technology with forbidden techniques in ninjutsu. The degree of damage caused is far more far-reaching than the damage caused by Orochimaru and Pain's raid on Konoha village. It is very likely to seduce the young people in the village to go astray. Naruto really experienced the dilemma faced by the third generation of Hokage at this moment, but he had to deal with it, and even used thundering means to quickly kill those rebellious ninjas who might show up. Is there any news from the 5 great nations? Naruto asked his most critical question. Nara Shikamaru had a bitter face. According to the information from the border, the 5 major countries have all experienced rebellions of varying degrees. Those rebels held high the banner of the Otsutsuki clan, as if it was the sequelae left by the Infinite Tsukuyomi. The Infinite Tsukuyomi released by Uchiha Madara at the time brought a large number of people into that illusory world, allowing everyone to get the life they wanted in their hearts, but their energy was gradually absorbed by the Otsutsuki clan and became the fruit of the Chakra World Tree again. Many people are addicted to that illusory world and cannot extricate themselves, and gradually want to return to that world. To get rid of the problems in real life now. And Kagaya Otsutsuki has become the mother goddess in their minds. No matter how you look at it, their conspiracy is exactly the same as the strategy on the screen in the sky. It seems that the video on the screen in the sky provides them with a clue for their judgment. Finally, Nara Shikamaru summarized. Naruto slapped the table and stood up directly, asking all the senior ninjas to contact the ninja villages of the 5 major countries. The 5 major countries must join forces to nip the conspiracy of this group of rebels who want to return to the infinite moon reading world in the bud. After receiving Naruto's order, the senior ninjas took action and disappeared in the office in an instant. I have a bad feeling. Naruto looked out the window. Under his feet was the peaceful and tranquil Konoha ninja village. Death God Plain. At this time, Ichigo was in the Soul King Palace, forging his new Zanpakuto. He occasionally looked up at the screen above his head and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. I always felt that the timing of Waiwaka's infiltration into the Siraidii was a bit strange. According to the arrangements he made before, they would invade the Siraidii at least 3 times. The first time was to take away the Bankai of the captains of the 13th Godii. The second time was to carry out a decapitation operation to eliminate some special combat forces before awakening. Then the third time was to deal a devastating blow to the 13th Godii, and to destroy the entire Siraidii. There was nothing wrong with the plan, but it was still a bit weird during the implementation process. Ichigo Kurosaki is not the kind of person who is good at thinking, but such an obvious flaw still aroused his suspicion. And beside him, Abarai Renji also completed the steps of blood exchange and remaking the death suit, and learned the real name of his Zanpakuto Bankai in the Soul King Palace, which can be regarded as being able to obtain the full power he has gained. At this moment, he stayed by Ichigo's side. And Lucia Kukaki and her brother Byakuya Kukaki rushed to the Siraidii as soon as possible. There might be danger and they must go to rescue. Return to the Siraidii. But Renji was not impulsive. He decided to be by Ichigo's side. I think it is indeed very strange, but we have no other choice but to fight actively. If Waiwaka sends out all the Stern Cross legions, it will be difficult for us to win with our current strength. Abarai Renji expressed his concerns. Ichigo nodded secretly after listening to Renji's words, but he looked up at the plot played on the screen above his head, which seemed to be very similar to the current scene. Waiwaka's target is probably not the Silent Soul Court, but the Soul King Palace where he is. Then why didn't he come here directly, but kept tossing in the Silent Soul Court? Because of the huge screens that appeared above each plane. Unknowingly, it actually affected the choices of the protagonists of other parallel time and space. This time, Ichigo Kurosaki did not rush to return to the Silent Soul Court from the Soul King Palace, but waited quietly here. Chapter 59. Everyone finally arrived at the prosperous city of Rainland to settle accounts with Shaq Crocodile. But they actually met Colonel Smoker, who had been following them in the restaurant. Smoker did not give up and chased Luffy all the way to the casino opened by Shala Crocodile. But he didn't expect to fall into the trap set by Shala Clatter. People were locked in cages. The people locked up at this moment are Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Smoker, who is chasing them. No matter how hard they struggled, they couldn't open the cage bars. Because the fence contains a special material called sea stone. It can suppress the power of devil fruit users. On the other side, Vivi was walking on the street. I met the lieutenant of the Alabasta Kingdom Guard. Belle, the user of the animal bird fruit. Before Belle had time to exchange pleasantries with Vivi, Then he met the woman he couldn't resist at all. Mrs. All Sunday, who has the power of flowers and fruits. The power she possesses can blossom anywhere. Grow a part of your body. No strength or speed means anything to Robin. Her joint skills can instantly subdue Belle. Then Ms. Chuan Sunday brought Vivi to Clarkdale. The powerful strength he showed made everyone present feel desperate. He has been planning a conspiracy and the Utopia plan has officially started. The first step of the plan is for Von Clay to imitate the King of Alabasta. Appeared in the port city Rapeseed. That is the land of his last supporters and the base of the rebels. The people of Baroque Company also changed into the king's clothes and started to massacre the locals indiscriminately. The purpose is to make the people in this area hate the king's army. The king who hates Alabasta. Then the second step of the plan, Baroque Studio, pretended that a ship full of weapons had crashed. A large amount of weapons poured into the port. Let these ordinary residents arm themselves and become a rebel army. Further increase the strength of the resistance against the king's army. Kosa, who was originally staying here, wanted to negotiate with the king. End this battle peacefully. But how could Mr2, who was pretending to be the king, give him this opportunity? He injured Kosa directly, looted everything around him and fled. The real king of Alabasta, who was originally going to appease the people's resentment, is now missing. His guard lieutenant, Jaka, led the royal army to suppress the rebels. This greatly deepened the resentment between the two armies. The situation can no longer be reversed. Just when the situation was tilting towards Shah Crocodile's side, Sanji, who had been hiding in the dark, suddenly exerted his strength. First, he led away Crocodile. Then he successfully rescued his companion from the cage. Originally, Crocodile broke through his own underground secret room. Let the water flood into the room, hoping to drown all these people with special abilities here. But he didn't expect that Mr. 3, whom he threw into the crocodile pool before, would become the key to Sanji and others' final comeback. They forced Mr. 3 to make the key to the cage. Zoro saved the drowning Colonel Smoker. Only then did Smoker truly understand that Straw Hat Luffy and his crew were somewhat different from other pirates. This also laid the groundwork for their later cooperation. But unexpectedly, it was Shah Crocodile who came back to kill him. In order to ensure that everyone can reach the Araba's palace safely, Luffy goes alone to cover them. You must get Vivi to the palace safely. This is the agreement between Luffy and his companions. Jojo Plane. Due to the huge screen that appeared in the sky, the video played inside was subtly suppressed. Kira Yoshikage's desire for killing in his heart, causing the disappearance of people in Morio Town to disappear inexplicably, and everyone lost the motivation to continue investigating the murderer. So Jotaro planned to return to his workplace. Before he left, he investigated. He learned that Dio, who had been killed by him, might have a child, so he wanted to know how much of Dio's genes were inherited in the child's body. The child was left in Italy at this time, so he asked Koichi to investigate. Although Koichi is not a professional investigator, Mr. Jotaro has a favor against Koichi after all, so Koichi plans to accept Mr. Jotaro's task and go to Italy. His task is to get a small piece of skin from the child. Just when Koichi was about to leave for Italy, he was stopped by Yasuke because of the friendship they had established when fighting together before. Yasuke wanted to set off with Koichi. Although Mr. Jotaro only covered Koichi's travel expenses, Yasuke also received a considerable amount of sponsorship from the old man. Now he has more money on hand and can travel around Italy with Koichi. Koichi naturally would not object. After all, if two people go to Italy together, the search for people will be smoother. In fact, they did not realize a very serious problem. Koichi was entrusted by Mr. Jotaro to find Dio's son. According to the original plot analysis, it should be a year later. If they go to Italy in advance, Giorno, who they are looking for, has not awakened his stand yet. And it will take 4 months before Giorno turns into a golden-haired and awakened stand user. The Monster Plane. The Monster Association took action in advance, setting off a bloody storm in various towns. They began to capture living humans and used them as feed and breeding grounds to continuously produce their parasite-type monster army. Through the screen above their heads, the Monster King Orokai learned a very important thing. Before, they focused more on those warriors with some strength, and transformed them by letting them swallow monster cells to form monsters and become their subordinates. This screening process itself takes a lot of time, and at the same time, they have to force them to swallow monster cells to achieve the final effect. This is greatly limited in the number of monsters created. Although the monsters they created are very strong, such a cumbersome process will give the heroes enough time to encircle and suppress their newly generated monsters. In terms of overall strength, the newly generated monsters cannot resist the attacks of heroes above A level. So this time the Monster King Orokai took another route. That is to maximize the number of monsters. It is consistent with the strategy of Sand Crocodile in Alabasta. They all rely on the power of the huge masses to incite a revolution. Crocodile never lets his Baroque studio charge in the front. Instead, he lets ordinary people who have been deceived and oppressed by him voluntarily join the rebel army. He distributes weapons to them in secret and helps them to constantly consume the king's army. Then Crocodile and his organization only need to sit back and reap the benefits behind the scenes. Although the monsters transformed from ordinary people are just garbage-level soldiers, as long as their number is large enough and they continue to compress the living space of ordinary humans, the heroes will be exhausted. They have to go to various cities to fight. At the same time, such a large group of monsters will also cause great inconvenience to the overall operation of their human society, giving the Monster Association more opportunities to take advantage of the situation. Although the Monster King Orokai's brain is not as good as Crocodile, through continuous learning and research, he is getting closer and closer to his goal of building a paradise full of monsters. Ha 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 ha, let us also blend into this vigorous monster torrent. The Monster Association was filled with the terrifying laughter of dragon-level monsters. Chapter 60. It's a pity that Luffy didn't know the true ability of Crocodile. If you rashly fight him, he will obviously suffer a great loss. The Devil Fruit user who had been fighting with him before. Most of them are animal or superhuman. The ability of Crocodile's fruit is. It is a natural sand fruit. Before Luffy learned Haki, there is almost no effective attack, and it can hit the body of the natural ability user. Especially in the whole desert environment. It's like Shocklactle's home turf. Moreover, Crocodile's right hand has a special ability to instantly take away the target's water. Under such disadvantages, Straw Hat Luffy, as expected, was severely injured and defeated. Thanks to Shacklactar's lack of habit of finishing off the enemy. Instead, he threw the half-crippled Luffy into the quicksand and left. And Nico Robin, for some unknown reason. He actually saved Luffy from the quicksand when he was on the verge of death. The bird fruit user who had fought with her before. Nor was Robin's life taken away. This mysterious woman seems to be mediating between many forces. Luffy's companions took Vivi with them. Run towards the palace at full speed. Fortunately, Black Duck went to the kingdom and called his super fast running duck troops over. Give Zoro and his men enough time to reach the kingdom. They put on cloaks in an attempt to deceive the assassins from the Baroque studio who came to intercept them. Everyone ran in different directions, trying to disperse the killers from Baroque studio as much as possible. Luffy's crew will defeat them one by one. But in fact, Princess Vivi was not among this group of people at all. Hiding behind the rocks, Straw Hat Luffy's companions used their lives as bargaining chips. Lead away all those cruel Baroque killers. They opened the door for Vivi to go to the palace. Although Vivi arrived in time to stop the rebels. But the agents of Baroque studio hidden in the king's army. They used the smoke from the cannon to cover Princess Vivi's figure. So that her feelings could not be conveyed to the rebels. Although Vivi tried her best, she still couldn't stop the direct fighting between the king's army and the rebel army. They are all people of the kingdom of Alabasta. No matter who defeats whom, it will inevitably cause a large number of casualties. This is what Vivi least wants to see. Vivi tried to stop them, but the rebels were unsuccessful. The Black Duck was also trampled by thousands of troops. At this time, Usopp appeared beside Vivi on a tall horse in the smoke and dust. But Vivi asked him to show proof of his partnership. That Usopp directly showed the bandage on his left arm. But this is different from the code the Straw Hat Pirates had agreed upon before. So Black Duck never let Vivi go. Instead, he risked his own life, dragged Vivi with him, and ran away. It turns out that the code the Straw Hat Pirates had agreed upon before was that when they met other companions, be sure to untie the bandage on your left arm to reveal the X mark inside. If there is no mark, it means it is a fake. As expected, the other party had no way of knowing what the real code was. And that Usopp is actually Mr. Tu Von Clay in disguise. There's no time to waste now. She must come to the palace and find her father to explain the situation. But at this moment, the severely injured black duck was no longer able to run forward. And Von Clay, who was pressing on from behind. When he was about to catch Vivi, a black figure blocked Fang Clay's way and kicked him into the wall. This is the Blackfoot Sanji who will have an indissoluble bond with the she-male in the future. In the Dragon Ball plane. After being beaten into a desperate situation by Goku, Cell did not spit out No. 18 and then self-destruct as he did before. Instead, he spit out both No. 17 and No. 18. What makes everyone feel very magical is that even if he expels No. 17 and No. 18 from his body, he can still maintain his complete form. How is this possible? Didn't he say that he could only evolve into that form after absorbing No. 17 and No. 18. At this moment, the injured people looked at Cell in disbelief. No. 17 and No. 18 were pulled back from the edge of hell. The two of them also survived the catastrophe. While shaking off the slime on their bodies, they looked around. What happened? Did you guys destroy Cell? At this moment, the two androids were not as crazy as before, as if the program that controlled them suddenly disappeared at a certain moment. Originally, they received the same order as No. 16 to destroy Goku and rule the whole world, but since they were sucked into Cell's body, the original program gradually became invalid. In the original plot, No. 18 finally married Krillin and had children with him. Although the androids have very strong bodies and endless energy in their bodies, they are eager to experience joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness like normal people, and experience all kinds of beauty in the world. At this moment, Cell also realized the importance of life experience through the screen above his head. Princess Vivi in the video above her head could have given up her country and fled abroad. Or she could have directly joined the Straw Hat group to adventure on the Grand Line. But she did not choose to escape, but faced her own destiny. Returning to the turbulent kingdom, she blocked the rebel army with her weak body. Cell has Scion genes in his body. Driven by this fighting instinct, their strength continues to evolve, so that even if he does not absorb No. 17 and No. 18, he can still maintain his current state of perfection. As expected, what the doctor said was right. Scions become stronger through fighting. Shiryu looked at his body and no longer had the previous anger. So what are you going to do next? Continue to fight me? Goku looked at Cell, who was still in his perfect form, very vigilantly, and then protected No. 17 and No. 18 behind him. At this moment, his breath was very weak. To be honest, he was already a little exhausted, but in order to protect his companions and hold on, There is no point in not fighting you. From the video, I feel the brilliance of humanity from Princess Vivi. In order to avoid the death of her own people, she ran to the front of thousands of troops alone. I am afraid she had already decided to die. Even ordinary people like Vivi can have such awareness. Why do we, as more advanced artificial people, want to rule others? Even if we rule, the world will really become better. Do we want to become the king of the wasteland? Or become the master of a planet that is about to be destroyed? Cell's words made everyone fall into deep thought. In fact, they had never thought about this problem. They just subconsciously protected their homes and defeated the demon kings who attempted to rule the universe and the world. As for how those people wanted to rule, or what kind of world they wanted to create, they had no specific ideas at all. They just used violence, blood, and terror to force those people to submit to them. In the past, Frisia only sold some powerful planets to those wealthy races, but the wealth they accumulated did not allow them to live the life they wanted. Instead, they became the target of public criticism and were betrayed by their original subordinate Vegeta. Frisia, who was supposed to die on Namek, was resurrected by his father with a machine, and was easily solved by Trunks, who became a Super Saiyan. Those goals of ruling the universe have become a bubble. Cell knew all this information clearly, so he didn't want to repeat the same mistakes. The universe is huge, I want to go and see it. Cell finally expressed his thoughts. Going to the universe to find strong people and fight with them is also a kind of fun, and slaughtering and ruling things are getting boring. After listening to Cell's words, Goku smiled knowingly, because the other party's ideas coincided with his own, but because he had family, career, and friends to tie him up, he couldn't do it so freely. Cell looked at the screen and saw Princess Vivi's strong figure, with admiration in his eyes. What a brave girl! After saying this, Cell leaped and flew away into the distance without a trace.